call to order the regular meeting. Any problems with the bills?
No.
Nope.
Can I have a motion the bills be paid in the following amounts?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Water and sewer report there for your reading pleasure. Correspondence on the Golden Feather Award. Monies. Madeline had sent us a letter. If I can find it. So everybody had that letter, correct? Everybody got that?
I have seen it.
So we'll discuss it further on in the agenda, but that's regarding some of the questions that they had regarding NYSERDA and what we wanted to do with the town hall, and if we were gonna do a energy study first, so, but like I said, we'll address that later. Chuck Petersheim, in respect to zoning, with respect to grades over 15% for driveways. The Upper Delaware Scenic Byway, they gave us a questionnaire, and I'm gonna copy that and send that to you guys. It's regarding Route 97, the mileage in our town only. They asked if we had issues with roadway conditions, paving, shoulders, line markings,
Big time.
et cetera, site distances, turning radius, current speed limits, lane width, vegetation maintenance for scenic vistas, pull-off areas, signage, accommodation for bicycles and pedestrians. So if any one of you would like to volunteer to take this and fill it out.
Let me have it.
Gladly, thank you. And just copy us back and we'll get it over to UDC, the Upper Delaware Scenic Byway.
Carol, is that for driveways?
Pardon?
Is that for
No,
driveways?
that's for Route 97, it's Upper
Oh.
Delaware Scenic Byway Committee.
Okay, because you
that-
kinda segued into, over Chuck, what's up with that, grades over 15%? What are
That
we
was
doing with that?
his letter. I'm not gonna read it, and we're not gonna discuss it now, we'll have it further on in the agenda,
Oh, okay, very good.
okay? And, Matthew Solomon, regarding Pig Mountain. I sent that to you guys this evening, so you probably didn't get it yet, but it is there, and that's just, requesting the road closures and whatnot, and again, we'll discuss that further down.
Carol, on the Route 97 thing, I think we should be sending a letter to the state chiding about the deplorable condition Route 97's in.
Yeah, that's,
They should be put on notice, to put them on notice. It's just,
They did fill some of the potholes here recently, anyway.
well, they're gonna have to do more than just fill potholes, Ned. There's
I'm
gonna
with
have to
you.
be some money done. This smear and hope and pray to the holes for a couple of years, it's not working, it's a waste of money.
I'm with you. I'm running the roads every day.
They have to fix drainage, you have to fix a few other things. Ed?
On that thing for 97, I think a notation should be put in there of the way they trimmed the scenic byway this winter too. That was a disgrace. I mean, if you're gonna trim a scenic byway, you don't leave the stuff hanging broken off and all that.
Type of fluff on
do you wanna send me the issues and complaints, and then I'll send a letter?
there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, announcements, NYU will be doing another open house April 12th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. So if anybody here or anybody you know of didn't get an opportunity to fill out that survey, they would love for you to come back, and they're giving, as far as I know, still giving $2 bills for you to take the survey.
And they've already started to call for the water
Yes,
appointments.
they're making
so
water
we're
appointments,
following
so-
up on
And
that.
there's still some spaces open if people didn't get the word about this. This is a good way to get a baseline for your water for
Right.
free.
Exactly.
It can't be town though, nothing that's
Right.
treated at all,
Nothing
it
in
has to be
town,
outside
right.
of that.
Okay, division reports, highway. Oh, we don't, yeah, Glenn's not here this evening, sorry. You all got that? I got the email, okay.
Are we talking about that now, Carol?
No, we'll discuss that later.
Mhm.
Water and sewer, Don?
Received a call from UDC about a sewer smell in a building. upon looking around, we found that in their boiler room, they had a slop sink that the trap had dried up, was letting the gas come through, so talked to them, let them know they gotta run that sink every once in a while to keep the trap wet, so that won't happen again. Replaced the solutions at the eye wash stations at all the buildings for the water and sewer department. Collected the grease interceptor logs and filed them. Cintas inspected the fire extinguishers for our departments as well with the town hall here. I got a call from a house on 97 about a frozen water line. He thought it was our responsibility, but his line, after the valve, it tees and it goes to 2 homes. He owns both homes, he rents them out. I explained to him that if you have water in one building, then the main is thawed out and the valve is fine, it's on his end, so he's gonna work on that. Replaced the meter base that had frozen at a house in Delaware Drive. Also replaced the meter base at the old bus garage here next door, and took it out and put it in storage for the winter. There's a house on 97 that they were selling it, so they had to have the water on. They had to turn the water on for a couple days, and once the house was inspected, we shut the water off, took the meter out, put it back in storage. Performed a final read at 100 School Street, had to plow the driveway to get to the house, because there was about 5 feet of snow at the end of the road there. Brought the plow to RTS because the right side of the plow wasn't holding up. It was just bleeding back. They found that there was a washer out of place and it was letting the fluid bleed back through. So it took them, they had to pretty much tear the whole plow apart to find it. But it's working good now. Worked on the plant chlorinator, making adjustments. Last month there was a lot of snowstorms, so we did a lot of plowing and shoveling. When we were done, we had to go back and plow and shovel again. Did that for the sewer plant and the wells, and also for the town hall and the deck. Because of all the snow, we brought our machine down here, we cleaned the ramp up, because we were starting to run out of place to put snow, so we cleaned it up, so the ramp was as wide as it's supposed to be. We replaced the belt on the snow blower here at the town hall, because it was stretched and it wasn't blowing snow anymore. Worked on the sewer plant flow meter and it kept slipping off the track. We found that it was because of the ice, so we had to break it all apart, heat it up, get it thawed out, get it working again. Because of the deep cold that we were getting, our ports on our sewer beds kept freezing. So it was every day we're out there spending time thawing them all out. And the frosted jacked a small cement slab at the sewer plant, and it prevented us from opening our door. So we ripped the slab out, and here in a couple weeks we're gonna pour a new slab in front of the building. Took sodium and nitrate samples. We're still waiting for the test results. And the Department of Health contacted me and said that we qualify for them to pay and come in and take our inorganic samples. So he came and he took them. It's for small water systems and like trailer parks. We did it the same day. He said that he did the Homestead School, us, and trailer park in Livingston Manor. So I asked him how much that was, like the cost of that. He said it saved us around $2,500. So that was really nice of them to step up. And it wasn't anything we applied for or anything. It's something that they've done over the years. It's a sample that gets taken once every 6 years, and they never find anything. I don't know if they do it because they don't find nothing with us, so it's a cheap fix. But so it was really, I thought it was really nice of just let everybody know that.
What about
Who's that?
lava?
The Department of Health.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they contacted me and told me that we were accepting. I saw it on my my sampling schedule, and then he called me up and said he wanted to stop down the next day, take them. So I went around with him and we took samples. It was roughly 30, 40 samples for different sites to test. So that saved us a little bit of money. It was really nice. It's something that they didn't have to do that we worked out.
So that well down on the flats, is that still, does that still have issues with salt, or is that well okay?
Which well?
The well on the flats on
There's
the,
2 wells down on the flats. There's one on Delaware Drive.
the one,
and
yeah,
there's one
south,
over by Art's shop.
no, south, on, you know, the one down by Kluge's and Milani's.
Lower Delaware
Down.
Drive.
On Delaware Drive, I'm sorry, I don't know all the old names of the houses and stuff. Well, well, I took a sodium sample, we do have sodium, there is no high limits or anything like that, but when I get my results, I just took a sample, when I get my result in my annual quality report, it will come out and saying that, what our levels are. There is a certain point, I don't know off the top of my head, at what point we're not at it, we haven't been at it, but I have to advise that if
Right.
you have high blood pressure, hypertension, or anything, just to be aware that if you
Yeah.
keep drinking water, there's a potential that your blood pressure will be going up, so. But we took it, I'm waiting for the results,
We
And
used
I'm
to
gonna-
have to do that, but we haven't had to do that in several years now, right?
we do it once a year.
No, I know, but we haven't had to send the letters out.
Right, yes,
We haven't been at
our
that,
levels
we
have
haven't been
dropped,
at that
yes,
level, yeah,
over the years.
yeah.
Yeah, and that could be predominantly because most of our water, like he said, does come out of well 3.
Right.
Well 3 runs continuously, it's up on 97, it's 900 feet down,
Right,
so as people spreading rock salt isn't gonna affect that too much.
right,
But down on the flats, it was
An issue.
an issue, yes,
right,
so. But once I get the results back, you know,
Yep.
if they are of high levels, I will let people know,
yeah.
okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Don?
Nope.
Okay, building department, Gary?
For the month of February, 5 construction inspections, 1 fire safety inspection, 1 complaint-related inspection, and issued 1 certificate of compliance. 6 municipal searches, and received 1 complaint, closed 1 complaint, and went to training for county referrals and downtown revitalization, and also a class on floodplain management. We collected a total of $450 a month.
How much was collected?
$450.
Any other questions for Gary?
Gary, when you get plans from an architect or an engineer, are they always do you check their certification, make sure it's valid?
I do, yes.
Okay, they're all
Yes.
certified with the state
Yeah,
of New York?
there's a lead side,
Okay,
a site online, with the
Okay.
state that has it.
all right, thank you.
So. Assessor, Ken?
Well,
Thank you, Gary.
I've recently received some reports to be run on the real property system pertaining to the basic star exemption. Although it was assured that the local assessor would not be involved in the process, these requests have mysteriously appeared. And a notation on them, of course, that they're voluntary. It seems that parcels that have had a deed change during 2013 may not have had star on in 2013 in time for them to read it. And if we don't change it to a 2014 new star, it'll boot it off automatically. So it was just precaution so people don't lose their star that shouldn't. There weren't many on that took care of that. I was at the assessors meeting today, and middle of March and middle of April, we'll be getting the reports of those that come off. And we will be running them, taking them off manually, whichever we choose. I've completed the subdivision merge process for some parcels created by the paper roads and their sale. Each one requires at least 6 steps, which proved to be quite time-consuming. Additionally, we have had some other parcel splits and merged with neighboring parcels that require the same time and care. About 45 minutes apiece, just to put them in the computer. You build a parcel, put in some information, delete that parcel, it's on there for history, so it takes a little bit. Monday, March 3rd, I didn't make my normally scheduled office hours as I was detained in the ER well past my hours. So, I thought I'd be off March 17th, but that's been changed, so I'll be able to make that. Our change of email to the cloud has worked out quite well. Jeff Corbett had made some connections so that I can sign on and do email communications from home or the office. Either one works equally well. I was at home at the time and asked him about it because I had lost the code to get on. And he said, "Oh, good, I'm glad you called. We're changing to the new server." And within a moment, he didn't know where I was. He was on that computer and he did the whole thing. So it works out very well. Hoping that the snowpack will get a little less deep so I can get around and check some properties. We have enough problem with new construction debris and holes, let alone snow and crust. Now, in the meantime, I'm not going out there. The February assessors meeting was canceled due to inclement weather. A final spurt of exemptions was received and checked in, and the process is in the works for the March 1st deadline date. That's it.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ken? Hey, UDC?
Hi, everybody.
Susan, how are you?
Before I go even into the report, what I'd like to do is to give everybody a copy of an invitation to our workshop on siting communication towers in the valley, because it applies to what you all were talking about. It's gonna have a Frank Yoder from the Pennsylvania State Police Broadband Service Manager, David Church, AICP Planning Commission, Orange County, Richard Coney, Center for Municipal Solutions. So at any rate, we all, I think we all find ourselves feeling a little confused when we're talking about broadband and what we need to get, what we need, you know, and, so this would be free, couple of hours, it's good for credits for folks on planning boards and so forth, so it's a good thing.
Yeah, thank you.
So maybe we'll be able to ask a million questions and know better what we're talking about,
I
right?
discussed this, and we're gonna be able to give 3 hours of training
Yes, there you go.
for planning and zoning.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna give this, I don't have enough to go for everybody, but I wanted to cover everybody who's responsible. Kevin, I need to give one to you. So that people that are on board, that's what I'm doing. And there you go, so I got a few more if anybody wants to ask me. So, yeah, I think, and the other thing that it applies to is, we were also talking about emergency management services. One of the members of the council brought up, what about flooding, and we never do anything about coordination, et cetera. Well, I don't think you can untangle communication with emergency management services, they overlap. Like, I would be interested, if I were on the emergency management committee, to ask the state police guy how this works. You know, he's right in the middle of it. And what do we lack? And what do we have? Like, I wouldn't give up a landline, I totally agree, you know, that's what we had. But where's, you know, like, where's this going? So I think it's a very excellent time to have a meeting. And, yeah, that was the main thing. And so what else have we got going on here? So, Park Service gave a presentation. They're gonna celebrate their centennial. The theme, 2 years from now, or a year from now, at any rate, they're gearing up. And it's gonna be a promotion called Find Your Park. And they have hired promotional people, and Lori and I were laughing because they're always broke, but then they have money for an ad campaign. But there's plenty of opportunities to partner with their ad campaign and to ride on their ad campaign, and et cetera. So we can do that. There's gonna be a meeting the 7th and 8th at Villaroma on green tourism as well. So anybody here who's involved in tourism and doesn't know about that, that would probably be worth finding out about. The other things that have come up is GIS mapping of the corridor, which goes around and around and around. The Park Service has some resources. Apparently Delaware Water Gap has a large GIS department. The guy who's in charge right now, the superintendent Malcolm, is investigating getting some help from them. He was hopeful that the towns would have their own zoning maps on digitized, but every single town is different. You've got two sides of the river. It's kind of a mess. So when it comes to actually surveying and getting these boundaries delineated and GIS mapped, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's in progress. And I'm sure it will roll right over to the next NPS superintendent that comes. In terms of NPS also, Cultural Resources Manager. Apparently Dot Moon, who was the curator of Zane Grey, retired, and nobody is going to take her job description will change. But this has to do with an inventory of all the cultural resources that they have. And it occurred to me that maybe as we discuss the school, we might consider the school as a cultural resource and explore, you know, how the Park Service what their interests might be. They're gonna try to have somebody come down here and basically do an inventory of cultural resources. And I have no idea how to hook people up with each other, but there's nobody coming soon, so it's just an idea. And that, let's see, I think that's, oh yeah, and our ever going issue of thermal releases. Apparently Andrew Boyer spoke with the New York representative at the decree party, and he got his phone number. So basically, we're trying to get all these folks to be proactive about releasing bursts of cold water, and it would help in a lot of respects, and nobody loses, but it's an extremely large bureaucracy to work your way through. So it's just you just keep doing it, we will just keep doing it, basically. Because it doesn't seem right that you should have to seek this guy's phone number when we're in the middle of a drought.
Right.
And, it doesn't make sense. I think that's about it, so, yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'm just gonna add some things, okay?
Oh, good.
The board should know, okay, there was a resolution that was passed in Warren County, New Jersey, and it was already passed, and I think that there's a couple other counties in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, because Brian Stewart, I think, was at the UDC meeting, who's a supervisor from Wayne County, that they want to have a 90% void, okay, in the New York City reservoirs throughout the year. This is not for the cold water releases, this is not for the trout fishing, this is for flood control. Basically, we'll probably be getting a resolution, and because many times New York City keeps the reservoirs at peak capacity, we've gone through floods in 2004, 5, and 6, and if you look at what the capacity of those reservoirs were prior to the floods, they were almost at 100%, so they were going at 103, 105%.
Yeah.
So this is a resolution that's making its way around New Jersey and Pennsylvania that's been approved. And what it would do is, it would challenge the 1954 Supreme Court decree of New York City, who owns the reservoirs, and they have to release 1750 at Montague. It would challenge the decree by saying that it should be addressed again after 50, 60 years, because there's no reason why New York City should be keeping their reservoirs at 100% capacity, especially with the flood events that we've had. So that's basically
Agreed.
where it
That's
is, and it's
refreshing
New
news.
York City is the 800-pound gorilla, so we'll see where that goes. But that's a resolution that's passed. The other thing is that there's a new DRBC chairman.
I was gonna ask about that.
Carol Collier, as everybody knows, retired after many years. And I think Lori Ramey sent out that press release, who the gentleman is, but I think he was with American Waters. He's an engineer for 20 or 25 years. So that just came in like about 2 or 3 days ago. So there is a new executive director of the DRBC.
It was on the radio today. It was on the radio too.
In view of the snow melt that they're gonna have this year, and those reservoirs at pretty good capacity, they should start
They
releasing.
are. Not to interject, but right now, for the last 2 months, two and a half months, if you look at the gauge, they have been releasing so much water right now out of Stylesville, out of Cannonsville right now, that it's running between 900 to about 1,300 CFS. That's a lot of water, and they're doing that in anticipation of all of the snowpack up near Walton, north of the reservoir, coming down.
I mean, that's a
So-
no-brainer.
Well, that's what they have been doing. So if you look at, you could look at the New York City charts every day. The reservoir's right now at around 84% capacity right now. That's because they've been releasing a tremendous amount of water for the last 3
God
months.
bless them.
Okay, thank you. Beautification.
Star, do you have any update on beautification?
No, I didn't even think I was
I
gonna
don't
be
think
here
we even
tonight.
had a meeting, right? We didn't even have,
Not since
I
the
was
letter
away
was
for
sent,
a while.
no, not
Okay,
since the
and I
letter.
haven't heard that LBC's got anything new either, correct?
That's true, yeah.
Okay. Energy Committee. Brandy, do you have anything to report, or you wanna just do the RFP later?
Yeah,
Okay. Alrighty. Old business, Narrowsburg School. Anything to discuss on that right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, there was something in the River Reporter, and then one of the board members sent me, it was by Linda Drollinger, and it was in the River Reporter last week, and it said the board's real estate committee, this is the Sullivan West School Board's real estate committee, announced that 2 bids were received for the unused Narrowsburg School building and grounds. Having interviewed both bidders, the committee was prepared to discuss the bids in executive session, after which it expected to make a recommendation regarding sale of the property. Now, reading that, you would think that those were bidders that wanted to buy the school property, but they weren't, because that's what I thought when I read this article in the River Reporter. And what it was that, I think it was Joan Glaze that sent me an email today, she says, no, it wasn't the bidders, it was different realtors.
Oh,
So I said maybe she needs an editor, instead of using the
There
word
you
bidder,
go, yeah.
she'd use realtor instead.
there you go.
And they did make an award, I read that.
Yes, they did.
Okay,
Yes.
okay,
So,
so that's about it.
so there's, they have no bidders,
Okay.
they have a new realtor there.
You would think they would want to keep us involved.
Right.
Alrighty, solar energy for the town. Discussion, we sent the survey, I sent out to Fulton and Packer, we're waiting for quotes. I'm waiting for a call back from Decker to send him the information. So hopefully we'll be getting those in the next few days, which we're probably gonna wind up recessing because of this again, so. Brandy? I emailed you before, did you get the email? It was late when it came in. NICEAG emailed me.
I saw that, that's the same thing I sent you 4 months ago.
That's what I thought.
Well,
So NICEAG sent us, basically what the information that we've already had. They didn't send us what they were supposed, what we requested, and I've been on the phone almost every day with them. So I have to call them again tomorrow and ask for the invoices for the last year, so.
We were discussing earlier, maybe we
Bless
should randomly call a solar company tomorrow and ask what they need, to review the
Right.
RFP. And if they say, no, we just contact the electric company, then all this is for nothing, so I can
True.
call them first thing in
Okay,
the
that
morning,
would
then
be
let you
wonderful.
know. And if
Sure.
not, then the energy committee has, promised to go in the pod and search out the year or two. I
I'll
would
give
hope
them,
1 year.
I can call them and just ask them for them again, because that's what they had promised to give us, but they didn't.
But they just don't understand, one person will and then the next won't, and they send the wrong thing.
Yeah.
It's,
I wish every time I called, I could just speak to the same person,
yeah,
and then the
yeah.
one I got the other day wouldn't even help me.
Well, let me call tomorrow and see if that's
So-
required or not.
NYSERDA's PON 2112 says that the contractors, the approved contractors might ask for a bill.
Right,
So this isn't necessarily for multiple bills like we have.
Right.
but, I think Brandy's on the
okay,
right track rather
sounds good.
than 2 years worth.
I'll let you know as soon as possible tomorrow.
Okay, anything else?
I just have a question about that survey bid. Now, are we gonna hold a recess meeting?
Yes.
When those 3 bids come in?
Yeah, we're gonna have to recess.
Okay. And at the same time, not only the quote, but also what their availability is important as well. Because let's say one gentleman has a low bid, but he's not gonna be able
Right.
to get to the job until September, whereas the other guy might have a bid of $300
Right.
more, but can do it in 2 weeks. I
Right.
think that certainly
Yep.
factors in.
But we can't get to that point until we have a copy of the bills, right?
No, this is the survey. And Ed had brought up something too before, he did, DEC
has a
mapping.
mapper now on the computer that you can, if you know the outline of the property, you can trace it on the map and create your own map.
So I don't know if that's something we wanna do rather than having it surveyed, I don't know.
I still think.
Oh,
we
you
should
definitely have to have it
I'd rather
surveyed.
You gotta
Yes.
have a legal survey.
Yes, God forbid.
Okay.
I'm not depending on something on a map.
And then I also heard back from Jeffrey on, he checked with the bankruptcy counsel, who stated that the proposed clause in the contract that states that the provider goes bankrupt, the equipment becomes the property of the town, would most likely be unenforceable, since the bankruptcy court and possible lien holders would have priority and control of the panels and equipment. He said we can leave it in since it wouldn't do us any harm if it proved to be unenforceable, and may provide some leverage in bankruptcy of the service provider. He also did not think that there would be much of a market for the panels and equipment, therefore the trustee and the bankruptcy would have a great difficulty in selling those items, so they might wind up with us anyway. so.
I kinda thought that's probably.
So we'll leave, did we include that wording before?
It's in there.
Okay, so we'll just leave that in, so it doesn't hurt us. So, anybody have any other problems with the RFP as it stands?
No.
Okay. So, the RFP is good to go,
Except for the nice thing.
except for the NICEAG thing.
That may not be, the NICEAG thing may not be required
Correct.
until they ask for it.
So,
And I think we can come up with, and I don't even think we have to have a whole year. I think to be able to
Oh, okay.
extrapolate a lot out of
okay,
a bill,
right,
which is what, 13 bills or 12 bills,
okay.
so.
We don't have these bills in our files, huh?
Well, we do, but they're in the pod, so it'd take quite a bit to get them, to find them.
What do you think?
Yeah,
my name is
comment.
Gordon Smith, I'm a solar engineer, and in designing a solar system for a commercial application like this, it's really important to have, in order to design the system, it's gonna be very important to have the 12-month bills,
Right,
because it is gonna be different than like a residential. So I'm new at what the conversation is going on here, but
right.
it will be important in terms of designing the system
Well, they
size.
gave us, what did they give us?
Just
I was
doesn't
gonna
have
look it up.
kilowatt hours and kilowatts. It's like,
It
some
doesn't
have
have.
it, some don't, it's inconsistent,
Okay,
and we wanna have a year overview of everything.
okay.
We can go on the pod if we have to.
Yeah.
Well, let me call them again tomorrow and find out, and
Okay.
we'll,
It's also a little bit of a problem too, because you have many bills, you have multiple bills.
yeah, we have 16 different accounts, I think, so, yeah.
Yeah, and they're filed not in NICEAG files, they're in every month, so.
Yeah, it's in every month, so you take each one of them out, and they're each in then their individual folder, like general account, their highway account, water and sewer account.
Right.
So, yeah, they're all separate, so you have to go through every single file to get to them, so it's not an easy task to pull them all.
Somebody has invented this round wheel.
Yeah.
We just haven't yet.
Do we wanna go ahead and then accept, approve the RFP?
Go ahead.
Okay, I move that we approve the RFP, the solar RFP, as it stands now, as presented by the Energy Committee.
I'll second that.
Carol, do we have a copy of that in our,
It was given to you last
Last one.
meeting.
but we had a lot of comments on that,
Right, but
about
we didn't
insurance
change,
and
yeah.
stuff.
Jeffrey was gonna review that, I haven't seen it.
He
Yeah,
just reviewed that, and then, yeah, everything else.
Well, we really need a final copy before we can approve it, don't we?
Okay, we'll wait till the recess meeting then, so, yep.
Right.
Not a problem.
Dog kennel.
Is that your favorite subject now?
Yes, it is. I'm gonna spin counterclockwise this
Okay, dog kennel update.
time. Okay, the $1,000 idea didn't float. In fact, it went over very bad.
Oh, for the plan?
Yeah. Second, what kind of building do we want? Do we wanna go with a prefab, which I still think would probably be the smartest thing to do, is to have somebody make us a prefab, we pour the pad, put the drains in we want, we set it in place, lock it down onto the pad, and we're set and ready to go. Then we can just finish off the insides of whatever specs we want. I think that's probably the best way to go.
Do they have them, Millie?
We could probably get Graves or someplace like that, any one of those places to prefab to whatever we want specs.
Who would design that? Will? Ellen?
We would probably just lay it out ourselves. You'd have Mike lay down, just give us an idea, doors, 2 doors, and that holes be cut in there for, for the dogs to go out for each individual. We figure on 3-bay kennel.
Well, if we could go and look at a couple other kennels, maybe?
Yeah, I'll
and
take a
just
ride
get an
around,
idea,
take a look at a
like
couple
Destin
kennels.
and-
Destin,
and
I'll
maybe
take a
Port
down the
Jervis?
valley.
or
Port
something.
Jervis has got quite an extensive place to
Yeah,
go
but I
down there.
mean, shrink it down, we only need a couple runs,
I'll take the
right?
tape measure and take a ride one day.
Yeah, that guy up in Lake Huntington too,
Dog
the old pump
Mountain,
station
Yeah,
road.
Dog Mountain, yeah.
Yeah, all right, I'll make a day trip and go dog kenneling.
Kathy?
Those companies that build sheds, the prefab.
Yeah, that's what he
They,
was saying,
they
yeah.
actually make specifically dog kennel sheds. I looked at them online.
Oh,
They
really?
make them with however many pens you want. The whole thing is prefab. They bring it in on a truck. They
Okay.
have the kennels, the whole thing. They make them specifically for dogs.
Oh, awesome, okay, thank you.
Probably the way to go.
Well, we'll have to get 3 quotes.
Okay, I'll start
And,
looking them up online and get us
okay.
quotes.
How many dogs do we have in,
only a few a year that we need to worry
I
about,
mean-
but we can have, we've had in the past, we've had 6 at a time sometimes,
But
so.
can't we farm them out to Lake Huntington if they have a pound
The
or?
problem is we have to have a contract with a dog shelter unless we have our own. The dog shelter, they charge us money to have a contract with them. According to New York State Ag and Markets Law, we either have to have our own kennels or we have to have a contract. Right now, it's costing us $1,200 a year to have a contract with another kennel.
Well, If
So-
we don't capture any dogs, we don't need a dog kennel.
Bernie, we have to have it or
It's
they'll
law.
start fining us.
They'll
We have to
the
have
state
it or
will
they'll start fining
us.
us substantial sums of money
Yeah.
every month.
We could put cats in.
Thank you, Charlie, I needed that.
No, we have feral cats everywhere.
Yes,
Would
we
you like to
do.
volunteer for the feral cat program, Charlie? I'll volunteer you in a heartbeat.
Hey,
There's
no-
money in the SPCA. They had a couple years ago, they were giving out grants for, the feral cat problem.
Lumber
there's-
company loves the feral cat.
We, yeah, they are a problem
We'll
down
take it
there,
right up on the other
and
side.
I'd like to be able to deal with them, but,
Keep the
Yeah.
rat population down.
Carol,
so,
we should think
yeah.
about getting a pad poured about 600 square feet.
okay.
Springtime, start digging, lay it out and set it up for 600 square feet. Got Keith here, we can talk to Keith and see if we can get him, give him an idea what the heck we're looking at. And
Right,
if once the pad's down, all these
well, we need to
prefab,
get quotes for that too, right?
well,
so.
we could, if we pour it in-house, we don't.
No, that's true, yeah.
Hey, Norm?
Let's keep the volunteer.
Yeah. Well, we
Yeah.
already talked to him, that's where you talked to him,
Okay.
remember we said we would do him
Yeah.
as a per diem
Yeah.
consultant on
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
So, I
Yes,
mean,
okay,
it's
yeah.
all set to go,
Gotcha,
I mean,
okay.
let's get a pad down, then we can start, get us into compliance as soon as we
Well, we
can.
need to get the specs for the building before we put the
Well,
pad
600
down.
square feet, I think we're gonna be safe, we're not gonna be looking at anything over 3 bay.
Yeah,
You know, and that's gonna give plenty of room for a walk around and everything else on the
the
outside.
runs on the outside.
Yeah, we'll just put a fence around the whole thing and then we'll set the whole thing in.
Okay, so do we know the Ag and Markets, requirements for the runs and the size of each
Mike
kennel
had
and
given
whatnot?
them to me and he said we'd be more than compliance. In fact, he thought we'd be good shape at about 400, but let's put a little extra room in there.
Okay, so do we wanna, authorize, yeah, let's see, how do I word this? Authorize the supervisor to get, which you can actually get, and get them to me, quotes for
The buildings.
a for the buildings,
Mm-hmm.
for a building for the dog kennels, as
Mhm.
well as a quotes for 600. Well, we don't need quotes if we,
No.
right.
He's
if
about
we
how
do
many
it
square yards? About how many square yards for 600-foot pad? Square foot. Yeah,
now. Okay, so then,
12 yards of concrete.
how many concrete providers do we have in the area? I don't even know.
2?
Two, that's true. You have Wayne County Ready Mix and you also have,
We'll just,
Yeah.
okay, can you just get quotes on how much per yard and then
Okay.
we'll go with the cheaper one?
Might even be on state bid.
True. Okay,
hey Norm, there's, if you go online,
Yeah.
there is a ton of them.
Okay.
oh, awesome, there you go.
Yeah. It's, yeah, this is actually, and they'll give you a quote, right, it's buildingsguide.com, and you
Okay.
can get a quote, right, just punch it in.
All right.
Okay. Okay, so, we'll get quotes, 3 quotes for the building of the, dog kennels.
Good.
Can I have that in the form of a motion?
Also move.
I'll
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay. Moving on the dog kennel, gotta love that. Finally. Status of the $106,000 grant repurpose for the deck area. Okay. We had a conference call with Chazen. And then I spoke with Lisa, Department of State. We have a little bit of money. She's gonna look up for me and tell me exactly how much. It might be like $1,400 or so left in this grant that we could use for part of the geotech. They need more geotech done down at the deck area before they can finish the CDs. Let me see if I put that other email in here from him.
Chazen is they?
Yes. So, no, I don't think I put his other letter in here. No. Project one, they'll have the complete structural engineer, design done. They want more info, additional geotech work, reduce the, talked about reducing the scope. They didn't build the steps all the way down, because that was too costly to go all the way. They'll have the cost estimates both ways, as soon as they can get the geotech done. So, but the geotech, I was waiting for them to get a quote from the company. So the 106, we may have to repurpose some of that money to do the actual geotech.
Okay.
So that's why I was waiting for them to get quotes and whatnot on that, so that's
Yeah.
pretty
Who
much
does
where
the
we stand.
geotech?
Yeah, we're the,
That company.
we're the freeze
They're
point then,
Chazen
till
would-
this gets
they're
done.
not from around here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay, we're the
Is there,
freeze point.
we
till
don't
it's
have a
done.
drop dead date though to lose that grant yet, do we?
No, I got an extension.
Oh, you
Till-
did?
Till when? Yeah.
For the 106?
Yeah.
No, we didn't get drop dead date yet, no.
Okay.
So, but Lisa's working with us, she knows that, she actually talked with Chazen as well, so they know what we're dealing with and what we have to wait for, so they're being generous.
Okay.
She said it may come to a point where I get a letter from the comptroller's office saying, hey, either accept it or lose it, so.
Yeah,
But,
but before
For
we can do
now-
anything with it.
yeah, we need this, and we need the weather to break a little bit before we can get the geotech done, so,
And then you can repurpose it once you have that information.
correct.
Okay.
Because, yeah, basically what we have to do is we gotta rewrite the whole thing.
Right.
So that's where that stands.
But
The-
they are extending, so.
On the other one, we got extended, so they'll have
Oh.
that, and they'll have the other, ones done within the next couple of months, so. Master plan update, that's when we had our last recess meeting, which a couple of you, weren't here for. The public hearing is set for April 7th at, 6 PM. The master design plan for the hamlet of Narrowsburg is, it's within the water and sewer district boundaries, basically. So, we've been working on this for, what, about a year now?
Yeah, more than that.
Yeah.
Much more.
So we'll have that public hearing, you can, go online, we've got the, plan online, so you can look at it there.
I think our new revised PDF came in, so I'll put that up. I
Okay.
think Buck had sent the revised one
right.
like yesterday, I think.
Okay. Emergency management plan, he's got the first draft, of the beginning of it written, so I have to get in touch with everybody tomorrow and schedule another meeting. So I'll have that meeting with him, and then we probably only need one or two more meetings after that, so. And Dominic and Gary, you're both gonna need to be at that meeting as well, so, just a heads up. I'm not sure, but, just let me know tomorrow what's good for you, what days and what hours, like,
7 to
usually,
3:30 Monday to Friday.
10 o'clock in the morning usually good?
Oh,
Okay. Okay, the discussion, Harrisburg beautification group. So, everybody got the letter. So they would like to know from us timeframes for the following projects. Will the town be conducting a NYSERDA energy audit to help to determine the energy efficiency of the town hall?
Does that cost money?
Yes, they used to do it for free, but they stopped doing it for free for municipalities, so that would cost us money. So we didn't have the intent before to do that,
Did not have the intent.
no.
Do you know how much money?
Do you know stuff at all? Should I-
I did the research to be able to bring it to you for how much would that cost and what was the condition today to do that. So I printed out what the project administrator of LNS Energy Services, Michelle Woodell, was proposing. So the way it works is, so you would be able to participate in a flex tech program that NYSERDA offer. So, but there is a fee involved. The program is a 50-50 cost share, which means that NYSERDA would pay for 50% of the cost of the study, and the applicant, the town, would pay for the other 50%. So what's happening is, the first start is like, the way the programs work is that the scoping visit would be done to get an idea of what type of equipment is in the building. Then a scope of work is developed which includes the project cost of the study. The scope of work needs to be approved by both NYSERDA and the town before moving forward with the study. So I asked some clarification and it's in the email that I can review. So basically they could come for free, there is no cost. They do a walkthrough and assess and can advise in which direction to take. And so that could give us a first step which is no cost.
Okay.
And then they come back to you and they tell you, this is what we're gonna run the study on. And so you can decide, you have a material to decide what that would cost to run the study, and that's where you're getting your
So they give us a quote at that point to do the study.
And that would include, yeah, and that would include, I'm giving to you like this maybe you can have to read it. And also she provided a small commercial energy audit intake form that you would have to fill to start the first steps.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Her email is not attached, but I can forward it to you.
Okay, yeah, that would be great.
Very easy.
Okay.
And that was my correspondence with that question for clarification. So that's Michelle.
Okay, and this one you need back?
No, no,
No?
please.
Oh, okay.
But her email is not printed on it.
Okay, gotcha,
I'm
thank you,
just
yeah,
relying-
okay.
I will forward it to you.
Okay, they come down, do a walkthrough, find out what's here. See what types of recommendations can will be made for energy conservation. After that scoping visit, they prepare a scope of work which will outline the energy conservation recommendations we are going to investigate during the study and what we can expect the cost of the study to come to. Then the scope of work is submitted to NYSERDA. They need to approve what they're going to evaluate in the budget that they propose. Okay, so, again, if we were going to look into the energy audit, then we're probably gonna, it's gonna take some more time.
Well, it sounds like the first part is free, right? They
Right.
come and then they give you an assessment, and then you can decide if you wanna go further. And if we do this, that kind of works with the committee, the energy committee, right?
Mhm.
So why would we not do it? I don't know why not to do it.
Mhm.
Get the first step, right?
Now, my only question is that, do we just have one company come down, or, I mean, how do we?
I would
do
like
that?
more, which is, base everything on one opinion.
So,
I would say a couple
Doesn't Stephen
companies.
Stewart do this for a living?
Pardon?
Doesn't Stephen Stewart do energy audits?
Oh, I don't know.
does he still do audits for them?
It's just through NYSERDA.
Right, yeah, and it has to be a NYSERDA approved.
But do you know that he's not?
You have another comment, go ahead.
Yeah.
I do energy audits, but there are two different programs that NYSERDA runs. There is the home performance, which Stephen Stewart would be very, very much in tune with.
Right.
He does the same kind of thing.
And then there's
The commercial is a very different thing. The Flex Tech program is very different than the home performance thing. There's a lot of overlap, obviously,
Right.
but
Right.
they're different players. And so I doubt that Stephen Stewart is in the commercial.
Do you do that?
No, I don't. I mean, I can certainly give you a walkthrough, I can give you a free opinion, just based on all I know, that I'm happy to do. It wouldn't qualify for some of their programs.
Right, for them.
Do you know what kind of money we're talking about when we get to the second step?
I really don't know. It's
Well, I think it depends on how many buildings you have, and what the scope of work would be. That's why she's saying that she needs to come look at it first and then decide on the
So
scope of
why
work.
don't we go for the first step?
The other thing I was gonna say is there are very few people who do this commercial thing. I mean, I don't think you'll find 2 or 3 people who are gonna come and do it.
Okay, gotcha.
You're pretty much gonna find one person who will do an area.
Okay,
So,
okay, gotcha.
yeah, pretty much.
I proposed that because I just had it done for my building, and the guy, Paul, came from Hudson.
Okay,
So, and he actually did the library a few years ago.
okay,
So,
very good.
he's that probably gonna be the same gentleman for commercial building.
Okay, so do you want me to contact?
Yeah, take the first step for sure.
Yeah, it's free.
I'll make the motion.
It's for free?
I'll
Well, I
second
don't,
it.
yeah, we don't need a motion. If it's free, we're not expending any money, so,
Just figure cover your,
sure, we'll make the motion, sure. Yep. Town supervisor be approved to contact Michelle Woodall and schedule a commercial walkthrough of the buildings, for an energy survey, scope of work, findings.
I made it.
And what were the other
Dave
things,
seconded.
beautification address?
Okay, second?
I seconded, yeah.
Dave
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. The other things. What's the town schedule to start construction of the Main Street deck renovations? That all depends on the geotech and how we repurpose the money and how much we need for geotech out of that 106 and how far that 106 will actually carry us to construction, because
Their money could go for geoteching.
not all of it. I think geotech's probably gonna be less than, I'm gonna guess less than $10,000,
Oh, okay.
so. But after that, I mean, that's still
What did
$90,000 to
Chasen have left?
$96,000. We only have like $1,400 left at the end that wasn't used for something else, like education or something, so. So we can repurpose that money in the current grant that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
So some of that can go for that. So we don't know yet. As soon as the geotech is done, they can finish their CDs, give us a quote on an estimation of how much it's gonna cost, and then we can,
Do you think the geotech will be done in the spring?
yes, he figures it'll probably be done in the next month or so, if we can get the money
Okay.
to do it, so.
So we can wait and see.
Okay. And what's the status of the reallocation of the riverfront grant? Okay, we just went over that. Towns have any current plans to upgrade or improve the municipal parking lot? So we don't have any current plans, but I think that's a very good idea, personally. I know Buck said, in our discussions that it could be re-engineered or whatever to garner more parking spaces, and I don't know if we could talk to the bank and see if they would extend a little
I
bit
think
further
Barry
on
has
some of the.
spoken to the bank.
Barry?
Yeah, I've been in communication with Bank of America and speaking to their regional projects manager. And so far, they're willing to go forward. I put in that we were looking at 12,500 if they would meet us, and also just proposing what we would like to get out of this project up there in enlarging the space, guardrails, lining, lights, and a staircase. So they are looking at that. Just wanted to know where we were with this and if it's okay with everyone, and I just need to give them a letter as to what our intent and proposal is, so he can then take it to the next step on his end as bureaucracies go and that sort of thing, to play through that, to get the money.
What's the difference in the land up there? How much of that is ours and how much is the Bank of America?
It's all theirs. We lease it. Right, but there's probably, I mean, I haven't really, I got to look at the maps and stuff again, but I think there's probably at least an increase of 30% space up there for parking. And also just to improve it, to maximize, since that is our only public parking lot, also to create that safety barrier going around so no one goes into the railroad tracks. Lighting, just so that, God forbid, somebody drops their keys or gets mugged or whatever, you know, that there is some proper lighting and stuff back there. And then the slope coming down to the street, they did some minor improvements last year for the drainage, because the drainage, the way the whole thing is sloped and graded and everything, it was very, very poor drainage and really affecting Beauregard's property there next to the bank, flooding the basement constantly. So that's been remedied to a much better satisfaction at this point. So going and refinishing up the parking lot would definitely be a major improvement for the whole area and then maximize space and stuff for town. And having a staircase coming along there for any age group, somebody carrying packages, you know, winter slippage, the whole 9 yards, coming down that slope is not the easiest.
How long is that lease?
Goes to 18, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, I just did it last year, and I think it's a 5-year, so.
So are you proposing that they would meet us halfway if with any cost? Is that what you're proposing, Barry?
Well, they have various programs, as all major corporations do. We're, whatever little bit we can entice them with, you know, 12.5 is a nice little tossing a debate to them, and that might spur them on to help promote their business in the area. So they have definitely the coffers to do the project, and getting it priced out, I think, in the big picture is not really that extensive for how it's going to service the community.
One of the problems that with this parking lot enhancement was that we were doing it obviously to give more parking area to a place that has very limited parking areas, but there's no alternative access to this, even an enhanced parking lot, for events like Pig Mountain, which is where you would presumably need that extra space and parking. So that's been kind of a thorn in our sides as far as the parking upgrade project
Yeah.
goes.
We had often thought, well, we need to sit down with the property owner to go through here. That would be ideal, it would absolutely be ideal.
There's a
Yeah.
right of way through there.
Not just for the parking lot, but for other events that come in. You're definitely gonna need, with all of these upgrades that we're looking at for the town itself, you're definitely gonna need expanded parking at some point. And if it could be done now, when there's money that's somewhat available to do, you know, some of that work, it might be better to bite the bullet.
And do you know what the right of way is there?
There is no right of way.
There is no right of way
No.
across, okay, in the back.
The other thing
Through
being,
here, what I'm talking about.
there is no deeded right of way over here.
Okay.
The other thing being, I would run this through Chazen just to be on the safe side, because I believe with this new construction, it's gonna have to be ADA.
Oh, that's true too, yeah.
If-
For a parking lot?
Yes,
Yeah.
because you're gonna have to put handicap spaces in it, and they're gonna have to be able to get down the hill, and the only way they're gonna get down that hill is in an elevator,
Oh, wonderful.
or an escalator.
Right.
So I would check before you get into this too deep, that does it generate enough to make it become ADA accessible?
Yeah.
Put that kind of financial commitment into it.
If I may say, I was here when we built that parking lot, many a moons ago. But really, they used to police it, because if you go up there now and look, I'm sure you'll find vehicles that aren't even licensed. And I mean, it's not a private landfill, it's for the town of Tusten, so.
Well, Keith Weber got mugged. Remember
Years
that?
ago, they told me.
Yeah.
They went right up through there.
Yep.
Well, maybe it's time to
Well,
go
for
for it.
beautification, you
Three
need
that has
3
one
estimates. You really,
Right.
we can't do anything until we get some estimates.
Right.
That's all.
Well, let's check what we got there, vehicles, make sure they should be there.
Yeah.
I have a question
Yeah.
for Jane. So Jane, this is gonna originate out of beautification because they were the people that got the Golden Feather Award, the $25,000. So it has to come out of beautification where the money is allocated towards, whether it's for a parking lot project or the deck project or something like that. It's still gonna come out of beautification, correct? All right.
But beautification wants to work with the town and do what's best.
So how you gonna make that decision?
Well, you have to see what the numbers are, and then take a look, and the group will meet.
All right, so who's gonna get that number? You know, who's in charge of getting
Well,
that number?
beautification will get the number.
Not
We'll
Barry?
Their
see that,
project.
But,
Not Barry?
It's part
well,
of beautification.
Barry is working on, with the bank, to see what kind of commitment they will
Right, right.
do. Then NYSERDA will do the first and let us know how much. And then the other one was the geotech. Once the geotech is done,
Then
But
we'll.
that's more for the overlook, for the deck.
Yes, yeah.
But we're talking about the parking lot in the bank, up behind the bank now, this is
So we're
different.
talking about three different
Three different
things.
projects.
Same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But so let's concentrate on this one, who's gonna get the estimate for the upgrade and see what the ADA issues are, that's my point, my question.
Well, I would think Barry would be doing that
Right.
because since
Right.
Barry, you're part,
That's why I'm looking at it
right,
now.
you're part of beautification, correct?
Right.
Okay, and this was your proposal or an idea, concept, right?
Right.
So I would think you would wanna run with that as far as
Right.
getting all of the numbers and the feasibility for the parking lot enhancement. As somebody else from beautification is gonna do the same job for whatever their concept for the deck or the geotech is gonna do. And I would assume that eventually it's not gonna be the town that's gonna decide, it's gonna be beautification that decides because they got the $25,000. And then they will basically offer that to the town.
Yeah, right.
Well,
Whatever
that's
project we
exactly
can
what
do.
they're saying.
Right.
They're
Right.
saying, okay, town, we'd like to help you, how much do you need?
Right.
Right.
So we're waiting for an answer.
My question is, at the end of the day, because it's private property, it's not owned by the town, the town can't put any money into that as municipal money
Right.
into that parking lot, period, am I right? Okay.
Well, we have, I mean, we can, because we lease it.
Just to improve, to improve it.
I mean, we have to repave it, we have to take care, those kind of things we've done,
We have obligations as being leasing
Okay.
yeah.
to maintain the property,
Yeah.
and that we would justify
So-
that under that.
I see.
Carol, I believe Chazen did a study on that parking lot, because our original deal was, parking was included in the original.
Yes, it was.
Right,
And I think they did a study on that, and they walked away from it because it was
Yeah.
not feasible to try and work with it.
I remember that, you're right.
I'm not 100, I won't, don't quote me on it, but
Yeah,
I
I
just
think
think,
you're right.
I
can you look into that and then get that to Barry?
yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
good luck.
Okay, so,
So until the numbers come in, beautification
we're
can't do
stopping,
anything.
okay. Okay, on to number 14, open the stone bids.
But leave it on the agenda. for
Yeah.
next month,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Would like to read them.
You read them. Yeah. This one's from her. Yeah.
Never read these out loud before. What would you like to hear?
Company?
This is E-Tets
Text,
and
okay.
Sons.
Yep.
This is for wash the sand, stone, fill and gravel. They also put their sand bed in the stone bed. The anti-skid skid sand delivered price says $26.50.
Okay.
A ton?
Okay, so that was for sand.
That's for the sand.
Okay, and then stone, there's all different kinds of listings, right? So, all right, we need somebody to go over those to look at what the lowest cost.
Our deputy highway superintendent's here?
Cumulative.
Yeah. Steve, would you be
Steve?
willing to look at some bids for us?
I'm sorry, I can't hear for shit.
You were on the video.
Is there,
Carol, you'd have to
The
almost
sand
think
is
that you
from-
want to do line items and then cost differences, it's gonna, I don't know
That's
if
just
it's
the
gonna
one.
do it.
Steve Lane's job.
I mean, I'd be happy to help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to.
I know, yeah.
This isn't the only bid.
no.
No.
Steve, if you'd like to meet tomorrow, I'll offer this, I'd meet with you tomorrow,
Yeah, we can do
because you're gonna have
it.
different prices for each one of those, and you have to do a cumulative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of the total cost difference for all the stone, different types of stone and aggregate.
Right,
Right.
right. Because this is very important, like Danton's good. I mean,
Yeah, however the board chooses to do this,
Why don't we put them back for the recess meeting, except for the bids and.
And I can meet with you,
Yep.
Steve, and I'd be happy to
Okay.
go over them with you.
Yeah.
I don't know what the intent
So-
is of the board tonight, so I mean, maybe I shouldn't even hold this.
Yeah,
No,
we'll
no,
do,
you're the deputy.
we'll give them to Glenn tomorrow also.
Yeah, let
because,
him
I mean,
handle 'em.
he's staying, so,
Yeah, he's got to the 25th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
okay?
All right, just open them to see what they are.
Yeah, just say,
This one is from R&H Board Incorporated. Sorry, I was trying to think for a second. What would you like to know on this one? This is
do
R&H.
they give their sand in that as well, or just stone?
They gave me a separate one for some.
Okay, so the stone, they have a non-collusion certificate, okay.
Drop your phone.
So same company, R&H Board. Their price for the anti-skid sand per yard is $20.41.
Yeah. Is, neither one of those are with delivery, right?
It's gotta be delivered,
Tense was
Or,
delivered.
I mean, is it, yeah, well, there
That'd be-
is,
that's
what
what we
I meant.
touched
Is it
on.
with delivery or not?
It says agrees to furnish and deliver to the town.
Yeah.
Okay, and the other one is delivered as well?
But that was 26
It's a
fifty.
20% savings.
Yeah.
Is that a yard or two?
It's gotta be by the
For
ton.
sand.
It's gotta be by the ton.
R&H
Yeah, I
says
thought she
per
was-
yard,
Wow.
Yeah, so that's,
so then I'm
How do you know what
assuming,
you're How do you know what you're getting?
And then the other one's by the ton or a yard?
the first one, I believe she said by the time.
Yeah, you
I'm not
can't-
sure.
You can't, you'd have to have somebody.
That's
measure
why I
the
asked,
truckload.
because
That's a
it's,
good point.
Yeah, exactly.
well, my man Gary here, he pointed it out too, I'm just speaking up.
Yeah, it's gotta be
So-
by the ton.
No, it's by the yard because that's what we
What's that?
These need to be
advertise
analyzed,
for
but
is
not-
by the
Okay,
yard.
by the yard, okay.
Yeah.
So both of them are by the yard.
You know, I would suggest next year you do that by the ton.
Okay,
Because by the yard is very speculative.
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
You don't know what you're getting
right,
unless you measure every load.
yeah,
You can scale the truck if it's by the ton.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
exactly right.
everything else goes by ton.
yeah.
So we should change that next year, tonnage. Or throw them out and ask them to give you tons now.
And that also
This
might be a
one
typo
is
in there, right?
Callahan
You know what I mean?
Industries.
No, that's what we asked for,
Oh, we asked for yard?
yeah,
And that's not a typo in there.
no,
This one is for, stone.
we have non-collusion,
Yep, they do.
okay, and that company too,
Callahan
okay.
Industries.
Okay, so, and that's it?
Yes.
Okay, so we can do the salt bids, I mean, the sand bids, I mean, sorry. I don't know why I keep thinking salt. So the, we'll take the low bid from Gore. Everybody's
Is that for a year?
Yeah.
For the year.
Steve, let me ask you a question. Has there ever been an issue with them not coming in with full loads or anything like that? It's always a full load?
What's that on the
Because the
stone?
sand's, on the
On the sand.
on the sand, because it's a yardage, not a tonnage.
Ned, I think the sand bed goes off the old county bed. And therefore say, there used to be a lot of old sand pits, they didn't have scales.
Right.
If you noticed in our bid this year on the sand, it's requested all sand be delivered by the month of April. In years past, I've seen them haul stone in and out, and anyone that's familiar with a stone yard, you weigh your truck in the morning, period.
Yeah.
So if you bring me 20 ton of stone and dump, and there's 5 tons frozen in your body, you're hauling that all day back and forth, and I keep getting 15 ton.
Right.
The problem we have with the sand at our shop is we gotta carry it all up. As they dump it, you pretty much gotta have a man there to carry it up. So in past, I've also seen you come home and you find 2 loads up there at quitting time. You gotta hump it up, it's called. And this way, if we could all get it in April, we figured you're there, you leave a man there, you see the truck dump, and that's why we went that route.
Okay, so you have a guy there that, when they're delivering, you know you're getting full loads.
He's gotta be there, and the minute you turn your back on it, you fall behind and you get swamped. On the stone, you can't so much do that, I mean,
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we accept the low bid from Gore, RH Gore, $20.41 a yard for the sand.
Yeah,
Can I have a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
That was
All in
Sam.
favor? I'm sorry, aye. Opposed? Nobody? Motion carried, thank you. Sorry, I can't write and speak. Okay, the solar RFP, I don't know why I put that down twice. FEMA training, I gave you all, a printout that'll be offered at the end of April, and, we should all have that. You should also go online before, if anybody wants to sign up for that class, go online and take the ICS 100, because all the board members are supposed to have that. So, but we all need both of these. But at least if you had to do the ICS 100 online, it takes about an hour. And you can print out a certificate at the end, it's not a big deal, it's simple. And, at least you'll have some kind of familiarization with the terms and whatnot when you get to the class, so.
It's April
I
22nd.
don't think you can continue on until you do ICS 100.
Right,
It won't allow you to get your certificate.
true.
Is that nice?
I think it's,
Deadlines,
yeah. Yeah, it's gotta be April 22nd, without, I was looking at that calendar.
around Easter?
No, it's after Easter, Easter's early this year.
20th.
Is this the 22nd? Yeah, 22nd, so that's a Tuesday. Also happens to be Earth Day. Okay, so you can sign up for that if you'd like, and definitely take the ICS 100 before you come. Upperdale is scenic byway. I gave you this, nor the survey to do. The invoice we just approved, that was $1,000. We do this every year, $1,000, and I know a lot of people ask us, well, what do we get for $1,000? We keep giving out $1,000 a year for the Upperdale Scenic Byway Committee, and we don't have like a lot of feedback from them, so.
So why are we giving them the money?
Thoughts, opinions?
If they're not responding, if they're not,
Well, I mean, we can ask them to come to a board meeting and give a little update, I mean.
but just to have them come and give us a dog
Update
and
of
pony
what
show.
they're doing. No, I mean, what they're
$1,000.
doing, what the, exactly what they're doing and whatnot. I mean, some of it, we hear from the UDC report, but,
They give a report every month as a forum committee, the committee that Tony chairs. But I think it would be fair if you're making this basically a donation to get a personal, update from somebody. I'm sure they would not mind doing it.
I would suggest that we have them come here and talk to us and tell us what we're getting for our money after all these years,
right.
before we give them another $1,000.
And people have also made some good points here, which is the horrible tree chopping that took place. What about throwing pesticides down when we don't want them? There's a lot of concerns we have that other towns have, that the scenic byway could represent us as a group and say, like to the county, we don't want this.
Right.
So it would be good to have them so that, everybody could express their concerns.
Right.
Justify their existence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who are you asking? Are you asking the Tusten rep from the Upper Delaware Scenic Byway to be here, or are you asking the chair of the Upper Delaware? The chair?
Yeah, I think we should hear right directly from them what they're doing for the money.
It's fine with me.
Would you be willing to make that call? And
What, to the chair?
invite them
Sure.
to the next meeting?
Sure, and then what, they would like to make a presentation, and have
That
it
would be
before the
great.
meeting?
Yeah.
Like a 10 or 15-minute presentation on what they've been doing? That's fine.
That way we know they'll be in and out. We don't
I think it's Nadia who might be the chair.
Okay.
I think, I'm not.
Nadia's the chair.
Is Nadia is the chair, who's the supervisor from the town of Lumberland? I believe is the chair for 2014.
Yeah, I mean, she might designate somebody, but meanwhile, we have to go through her.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Right, what I'm gonna do is
And
I'm
how
going
much
to
money, like, I wanna know, like, we have no idea, like, where does this money go, how much money do they have, and what do they spend that money on, and, those kind of things.
Not much, because when Lori Ramey, who's the
Oh, I
executive
know.
director of the Upper Delaware Council, who also sits on the Scenic Byway, reports back to the Upper Delaware Council, they have very little money. I
Mhm.
mean, they would like more money, and they're not getting the money that's due them. I think there's also a $250,000 grant that Senator Bonacek has secured
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the Upper Delaware Scenic Byway. So I would hate to alienate ourselves, the town, from that
Yeah,
organization.
no, I'm not
Right.
suggesting alienate, but if
Right.
they need more money, well,
Right.
how much more money and
Right.
for what purpose? So, I
Right.
mean, we just need some communication,
Yes.
because we keep giving them money and we just like,
Yeah, we'd like to know, like, what are their ongoing projects?
Right,
What projects
exactly.
do they have? Yeah.
So what I will do is I will reach out to the chair, to Nadia, and see if she's available to give a brief presentation to the Tustin Town Board as to what they've done. If she's not available, then she has a vice chair, I would assume, or somebody who can give a
Helps out.
presentation. Yeah.
perfect, thank you very
All
much.
the towns on the Upper Delaware on the scenic byway give $1,000 every year,
Some more, some less.
but everybody donates something?
I think so. I mean, she'll be able to answer that. Or Lori Ramey's
Question for when
able
she
to
comes,
answer.
right.
You know, you
Yeah.
can call her up tomorrow. You can call Lori up tomorrow across the street and find out, if everybody's kicking
Yeah.
in.
Okay.
Kathy said
So, yeah.
I used to get all those reports for the years when I was town clerk. Some towns donate 1,000, some donated 500, and some donate nothing. It's about evenly split. About a
Okay.
third of the town zero, about a third 500, and a third gave 1,000.
Okay.
That was the highest amount anybody
Okay,
gave.
thank you, Kathy.
Okay.
TAP grant discussion. I think I sent this to a few of you. The Department of Transportation Alternatives Program was authorized by Congress through passage of the 2012 to 2014 Transportation Bill. Contains many eligible project types from the former Transportation Enhancement and Safe Routes to School programs. Eligible project categories include on and off-road pedestrian and bicycle facilities, and infrastructure projects for improving non-driver access to public transportation and enhanced mobility, safe routes to school projects, and projects for constructing boulevards and other roadways largely in the right-of-way of the former interstate system routes. Community improvement activities, environmental mitigation elements, including stormwater management, may be added to these projects using TAP funding. Successful project sponsors will be reimbursed up to 80% of eligible project costs. So is this something that the board would like to look into
Yeah.
with the grants committee? It's, keep in mind that we have to foot 20% of the bill, or more, it's up to 80%. One of the thoughts that I had was, I know we discussed before, master plan committee,
Yeah.
or I forget, or design,
I took a
Riverwalk.
picture of the bicycle
Oh, wow.
paths in Florence.
Nice,
Just was,
very nice.
yeah. Yeah, I would be willing to look into that. You said,
I
would it
thought
be good for, and what was your
The
suggestion?
electric car chargers, the
Right.
stations, like we had talked about, I think Carl brought it up initially. And I thought it was a great idea to have one maybe on Main Street and one at the library or something, to,
No, what I wanted to do, of course I miss pie in the sky, is have, underneath the railroad, the connection.
Right.
To go through from Landers, which we know
Right.
is pie in the sky. But Hey,
No, that's past by.
but you
You're-
can just ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be happy to work
You
on
wanna look
that.
at that? Okay,
Garbage-
so,
garbage covered.
we'll authorize Jane to look into the TAP grant. Actually, I will just give you this
Good,
letter.
because my computer is.
So they actually give us a grant, they would give us a grant?
Well, they'll give
Yeah.
us, they're
Up to
saying that it
80%.
might be 20% that we have to pay. But
Right.
if it does something major to help the community, that's
Right.
what we're here for, right?
And that's, I mean, one of the thoughts behind the electric
50 million.
charging station was, you know, it increases, your tourism base. You know,
Yeah, I
you're
like that
attracting other people and different kinds of people to the area. That, you know, this is something you have to offer here,
Right.
so.
Okay.
So
I love
authorize
that.
Jane to look into TAP grant,
Oh, there's a webinar tomorrow. Or,
Oh.
no, not tomorrow, the 18th, next
18th,
week.
okay.
All right.
So I'll put that in form of a motion, second.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, and resignation of the highway superintendent, Glenn Swenson.
In his email, he said he was gonna, be done by the 25th of March?
Correct. Yes, March
Okay.
25th is
Okay.
his last day. He's asked Nicole to read his letter of resignation. I would just like to say that I think Glenn's probably the finest highway superintendent we've had in over 50 years. I have a very heavy heart and very disappointed and distraught over this decision. I think it's a shame that it's come to this, and I don't know. Nicole, could you read his letter, please?
Dear Supervisor Winger and Town Board,
Nicole, just speak up a little bit so everybody can hear you back there.
it is with mixed feelings that I have submitted this letter of resignation to the town clerk. As a resident of Tusten, I care very much for most of the people who live here and have tried to give the job of highway superintendent 110%. In 2011, when I was elected in the overwhelming vote, even without being on a majority party line, I knew that people were looking for something better. I tried not to let them down and worked every day with the men, cut the waste from the budget, and believed I provided better service to the town for less money. I could not have done this without the assistance of Stephen Swenson and Karen Valenti, who guided me through the superintendent responsibilities and financial aspects of the job respectively. Thank you. The board, Carol, Andrea, Tony, Eileen, and Norman supported me, and I think they appreciated me too. I also wanted to thank the former town clerk, Kathy, who looked up all the specs, advertising, and things for me, and the water and sewer guys, Dom and Tom, for working so well with us. And of course, the highway guys. When I won in the 2013 election, even with an even larger majority of the votes, I took that as a vote of confidence in me and the way I have been running the highway department. As we all know, this has been one of the coldest and snowiest winters ever and has taken a toll on the patience and stamina of us all. But everyone I met in the street thanked me and said that we have been doing a great job. To save the town money in overtime, I was out on the roads myself at night since I am salaried. Most nights I was out at 2 a.m. checking and sanding as needed. And then during all the snowstorms, I was out every day with the men. Everyone who knows me knows that I never complain. I just work however much is needed to do the job right. Shortly after the election, one of the highway employees resigned to take another job. I filled the position with one of the people I had interviewed from the previous applications. One board member took exception to my action, which was in accordance with the highway agreement quoted below, which states that the highway superintendent is solely responsible for the hiring of employees in that department. The selection of internal and/or external applicants to fill positions will be at the sole discretion of the superintendent of highways. Such action shall not be subject to the grievance procedure. The superintendent of highways will be the sole judge with respect to the degree to which applicants meet job qualifications. That board member wanted to create a policy telling the superintendent how to perform his elected position. That was the beginning of the unnecessary, abusive behavior towards me. Last month, that same member sent an email to the board from the Narrowsburg Lumber Company parking lot where he said he would be spending the night since he couldn't get up Irish Hill. An email exchange continued between us, which the board was copied on, so I do not need to elaborate on all the lies which were said. At the recess board meeting on the 24th, he admitted to not being in his truck all night, just one of the many lies in his emails. That night, I asked the board to take action against this member to stop this kind of abuse. But instead, they all said I did a great job and talked among each other, laughing and smoothing it over. And then they even suggested creating a policy, although they can't, of having a highway person working until midnight when there is a possibility of any black ice or snow. That person would be me, and I start at 2 a.m. My biggest disappointment is the board's lack of action and allowing the lies to go unchallenged instead of setting the record straight. The failure of the board to support me and take any action against the lies and abuse has made it necessary for me to resign this position, since I don't deserve abuse that is being directed at me and expect it will continue. My last day of work will be March 25th, 2014. I am sure that the board will find someone else who can do the job fine. I have heard that you've already been approaching people. Anyway, again, I want to thank all the people who had confidence in me and elected me to this position. I hope I didn't let you down. I am sorry this letter is so long, but I feel the people need to know why I am leaving. Sincerely, Glenn Swenson, Highway Superintendent.
Thank you, Nicole. Any comments from the board?
How are we gonna proceed? Steve, you'll fill the position now until another person is appointed, Carol? How's this work?
Yes. You have a vacancy, will be held until the next, we can appoint until the next election.
We'll appoint until the next election,
Okay.
correct. So, we have, I know, one person came to me, Don Niger has expressed interest. So, I know Don personally to be qualified for the job. I don't know if there'd be any other interest. What's the board's feelings? Do you wanna advertise it, or?
Don's approached me, Don's approached me, and
Yeah.
I've worked with him, I think since 77, Don? No question in my mind, he's more than qualified.
Mhm.
He
I
knows
agree
all
with
the
that.
ins and outs.
How long have you worked on the highways and stuff for the county now?
35 years.
So I think you have a pretty good understanding of what's needed?
Yeah.
What's state law as far as when this happens? Because has this ever happened in the town of Tusten where an elected official has resigned, during their term?
It's no big thing, Tony.
No, a highway
Yeah.
superintendent.
No, it's no big thing, it's a
Any
standard
elected
procedure
official.
for all elected officials.
Yeah,
He
I
goes,
resigned as
we
town
we can
clerk.
appoint.
Right, but does it have to be advertised?
But also, Carol, when
Not really.
No.
It
Carol,
does
when
not?
you resigned, because you won the election, that left a vacancy on the board, which was filled by the board.
correct,
And it was
correct,
put in.
yeah.
Same
I
thing.
think Kathy,
Right.
Kathy Michelle was elected.
Election law is very specific
All
on
right,
how
so,
this
so what you're
procedure
saying,
goes.
Norm, is it does not have to be advertised?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
No, it doesn't have to be.
Nope.
I mean, the board can choose to advertise it if they wish. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know, I really begin to think we need a superintendent more than we do anything else when we're running this rat
There's been a
race.
lot of, a lot of people, I mean, everybody knows, I mean, pretty much it's been all over town that Glenn's gonna resign. And it's fairly well known. The only question I would have is if you wanna put it in the paper, we can decide this at the recess meeting, or you can decide it now.
Well, Carol, why don't
Board's pleasure.
we ask Don, Don, why don't you just kinda give us an overview of, can you do the job now? Do you have any other commitments? Can you do the job until the next election? Are you willing to run for the next election? Where are you at?
Yeah, I can do the job now, and I would run at the next election, yes.
Okay.
And
I don't need to ask you what party.
No, it doesn't matter.
That's not our consideration.
But I don't know anything about you. Can you tell me something about you? You've worked for which highway department?
Sullivan County,
The county?
yeah.
And what,
I worked there 35 plus years. I've lived in town all my whole life. I worked on all different aspects of the highway department for Sullivan County. I was a foreman there. I dealt with men, budgets, and such.
And you're currently retired from that
Yes.
position?
Damn good equipment operator. Used to always meet him at the top of the hill.
I just wanna say something, I mean, the thing is that, you know, you would ask for comment after Glenn's
Yes.
resignation letter. And I'm saying, we've lost a very good man. And when you look at how many people in this town elected him to office, it was about 80%. It was 4 out of 5 people. And there was no reason that that letter need be read, okay? How this transpired, and the public does not know how this transpired about the email exchanges, back and forth and back and forth. But if that email had started, that it never started, he would still be in office today. And it's, to me, inexcusable when an elected official, he was not appointed by this board, he was elected by all of you out there and everybody else that lives in Tusten that's not in here tonight, not by 5149, but by a mandate. And he had been a highway superintendent for 2 years, doing a great job, and we had a shitty winter, and everybody had a bad winter, every highway superintendent had a bad winter, to basically criticize somebody like this, and then saying that lies, misinformation goes back and forth, when it could have been over a cup of coffee and straightened it out. It never had to get to this point.
So I guess I have to fill in the void. Listen, in business, in elected, you know, as an elected official, you're gonna get criticism. It's gonna be good, it's gonna be bad, it's gonna be something that you need to hear, and other things that you don't need to hear. And that's just life. And when I run my business every day, I have people criticizing me and whatnot, but I don't throw in the towel and just sulk. You move ahead, you move forward. We both apologized to each other that night. And that was the end of it. But apparently Glenn had his feelings hurt and he needed to move on, so move on he will. He was a good guy, no two ways about it. Did he make a mistake that night? Absolutely. Do we need a subcontractor or some sort of an independent contractor to fill the void when our town guys can't? Like we used to do? Like we used to have these subcontractors come in and run the trucks so that we didn't have a lot of overtime issues? I think 100% we do. Can I tell you or him how to run their jobs? No. Can I tell them who to hire and what? No. We can't tell them who to hire. But when someone hires, we have a town position open, and it's been 2 years since we advertised for that position, and we don't advertise for that position so from 2 years ago, and other townspeople who might be able to fill that position, that's up to the superintendent of highways if they want to hire him or not. But darn it, get out there and ask the local people if anybody's interested in filling that position, and let's hire local people. And that's where the rub started, and that's too bad, because I want to hire local people.
Okay, now I'll put my 2 cents in. A, we've never hired subcontractors. We've employed on a part-time basis. They used to be called in. They were hired by the town. So it was the same as pulling overtime. It cost the town money. I don't believe Glenn made a mistake that night. Glenn was unaware of a situation that was developing. The county didn't call him. Nobody else called him. Like I said at the last recess meeting, if you saw an emergency situation, you had an obligation to call him. You didn't call him, you didn't call me. That's the way it should have played out. Second of all, as for the hiring of people, he had an unusual situation where we were going into winter. If we had waited to advertise and whatnot, we needed the man. And that's why he did what he did. Other than that, he didn't have a problem re-advertising and stuff. So it was a unique situation that needed some tolerance. That's my 2 cents. Like I said before, I think he is the finest superintendent we've ever had. He saved the town a ton of money. He's done an outstanding job as far as I'm concerned. I've not received one complaint about him from anybody. And like Tony said, he was overwhelmingly voted. You will not interrupt me. Again, you'll not interrupt me. Like Tony said, he was overwhelmingly elected by a mandate in this town, and I really think it's a shame it got to this. He states the reason because he feels that it would have just been continuous more complaints, and I said to him, you know, if your decision's your decision, I understand that, I'm sad to see you go, I don't wanna see you go. So I think it was excellent for the town, but, I can understand not wanting to have to put up with that. And it's sad that it came to this. Hold on, Eileen. Jane?
I'm equally distraught over the whole thing. I was away for the last 10 days and saw tidbits of information that came through and just felt so helpless. Today is my first full day back, and I went up to the town barn to discuss it with him to see if there was anything that could be done, but I'm really very distraught, and I'm upset that he feels that the board has let him down, because I thought that the board was supportive of him.
Yeah, so do I.
And I'm very unhappy. I'm happy.
Glenn's done a good job. Never turned us down anything we asked for. As far as what transpired, that's in the past. As for the doubt, like Jane says, that the board's supporting him, this board has supported him completely in anything he wanted to do and never asked any questions. And I don't ask for any more support than you can get, and never asking any questions. So in my opinion, yes, it's done, but what's done is done. There's no point living in the past. We're gonna have to go forward, because that's the job of this board, is to go forward, not to dwell in the past.
I would also just like to clarify something for the public, because I've been asked for this by several people. Do we have to accept his resignation?
We
It's
have
not
no
the board's place to accept or deny his resignation. He, as an elected official, he resigned to the town clerk, and then it goes to the Secretary of State, so.
Town of Deer Park
There's-
decision took that with all the leave, so the minute that letter touched her hand, it was a done deal,
Yep.
cannot be retracted.
So, Eileen?
Yeah, just two things I'd like to say. I think one of them is very necessary. One, nobody had a better work ethic than Glenn. That I think everybody knows, or did a finer job. And the second is, I've been informed that it was your fault that he was fired, and he was fired. So I thought that's something that should be made out in the open, because he was obviously not fired, and you're not the one who did it.
Brandy has something.
Brandy?
I just wanted to clarify that,
Hold on, Brandy was talking.
Excuse me.
I just wanted to clarify that, Glenn had no problem taking criticism. The problem were the lies, not the criticism, and I don't wanna confuse that. He's an outstanding worker for this town and a great guy. Everyone likes Glenn. He did this above and beyond this job. And he had no problem with any kind of confrontation. If you called him and said there was a problem, he'd be there in a second. That didn't happen, but the name calling went on, and we lost a really good guy. So I just want to clarify that.
Thank you, Brandy.
When I heard that he resigned, Carol, my wife, Carol, and myself, we just couldn't believe it, because he did, to reiterate everything that everybody has said about the job that the man has done. And when he made a report, it was like he gave you every fact and figure. How could this happen? How could this happen, that we would lose a man so dedicated? Why did it happen? I want some answers. I want some answers. What forced him out? I want to know what happened. It's not right. He had a good job for once in his life. He had a good job. He was happy doing what he wanted to do, and he's out of here for why? I want to know why.
I'll make two more comments, Annie.
I wondered if Glenn would consider not resigning if the town called for someone else's resignation.
We can't.
We can't.
I'm an elected official.
That's, yeah, the town board can't do that.
We're legally bound by what he has done, and we have no choice in the matter.
Let me also say one more thing. Hold on a second. Glenn and I had a long-standing relationship. Listen, at the end of the day, we grew up in this town. We'll be friends or not friends, whatever. But Glenn and I had some other issues, and when Glenn went and told me that the town bought a truck from Carol and her husband, I said, Glenn, you can't do that. That's a conflict of interest. I said, why are you buying a truck from, I said, I can't do business with the town. He says, I don't care about conflict of interest. We needed a truck and I bought it. And I said, well, Glenn, that's not okay. That's not okay to do that. So, it's before our accountant now, because I don't think that was right. But anyway, there was a lot of things that were going on in the background. I said, Glenn, this is not your money. This is the town's money. This is the people's money. There's things that you can and can't do with the people's money. And conflict of interest. I can't work for the town. None of these board members can work for the town. We can't do any work for the town if you have your own business. So there's some other issues here underlying, and so Glenn didn't like that I was giving him advice and telling him what he should or shouldn't do. But that's just the way it goes, okay? He's a great guy. Glenn did a fantastic job. Was he the best guy ever? I don't know. Ed Krause and Fritzy Connect and those boys, they did a great job for this town during their time also. And we shouldn't forget about them. Right, son?
Bud Wells.
Yeah, a lot of people work hard for this town. So if he wants to throw in the towel, that's his business. No hard feelings. Come see, come side. But anyway, there's other issues here that are transponding, I want to say.
Chuck, last one.
To be elected by 4 out of 5 people, to have someone, the entire town saying you're doing a good job, to have the board giving you everything you want, and to throw in the towel because Ned's giving you a hard time, that's not really that's quitting.
Thank you. So,
Carol,
the issue
I'm sorry, could I just ask one more thing? It's done, what's happened has happened, but I think the town owes it to itself not to just let this lie. Go out and ask other people, advertise for this position, and let anyone who wants to apply for it give their credentials so you can make the best choice possible. I mean, it's very nice that there are people here with experience, but let's see what's out there. We didn't know Glenn was out there until he, came in and did this.
Kevin, last comment.
The board, I think it's clear that as many people who voted for Glenn was sort of bullied out of his position. Glenn was bullied out of his position, and the board has a bully in its midst. The board cannot ask the bully to resign because that's state law. The board, however, can police itself, and I suggested the board have a vote of censure for what has been a destructive and unnecessary act of public vandalism.
Thank you, Kevin. So, we have a decision to make. Do we want to advertise it for a week?
You want to advertise and go to the recess
do
meeting?
you want?
Charlie, you got a suggestion?
Charlie?
And instead of advertising, I would think that you would appoint one of your senior members of the town board as supervisor or deputy superintendent until the next coming election. Save yourselves a lot of aggravation.
Ooh, we can't do that.
We
That's
can't.
not legal.
Yeah.
We
No?
can't.
No, we have to appoint somebody
Yeah,
to
has to
fill a
be- yeah,
position.
that's
We
a dual
can't
position.
appoint one of us.
You could appoint a senior.
No, not the superintendent. We couldn't appoint
No,
a
he
board
is
member though,
on the
because then that would be,
town
you put yourself in being your own boss,
Yes,
basically.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's not allowed.
This is my, now we've got on to the second part of this, my 2 cents, because I listened to Norm, saying that he had brought up the appointment of Andrea when the supervisor, who was the council person, took over that. Now, the thing is that Andrea had come in third, okay? And that's why the board had appointed her to fill out the council person at the time's term, because she came in third. Now, Mr. Meckel just left the meeting tonight. Now, when the highway superintendent ran in November, he ran against Mr. Meckel. So if you use that same logic, you should really
That
appoint.
logic has no validity.
You're cutting me off.
Okay.
You're cutting me off. If you're using that same analogy, then Mr. Meckel would be appointed because he ran and lost to Mr. Swenson back in November. I personally feel, since everybody wants transparency and everybody wants a fair, equitable table here that it should be advertised. It should be advertised for a week, see who comes in, and then basically that the board appoints that person. Because I'll tell you something, I don't want to hear that, favoritism and you did an end run and you pushed it through and stuff like that. 1 week to advertise it in the Sullivan County Democrat and the River Reporter, and then we make the decision who it's going to be. That's my
When is the
suggestion.
next
Tony,
meeting?
your
We
reasoning
have to
that
set
the
a recess
validity,
meeting.
because she came in third, is invalid under New York state law. It doesn't hold as a reason why you do the appointment. The appointment's done by the board feels like what it wants to do, and it's done by the electorate.
Well, that's fine.
Whatever person comes in an election has no validity in their eligibility to be appointed.
But I think that was one of the reasons why she
You
was
can
appointed.
give whatever reason you want, Tony, it doesn't mean it's valid.
All right, well, it was a five-person
That-
race at the time, Norm, and she came in third.
Okay,
and I
but it
think
still
that's why
wasn't
she
a
was
valid
appointed.
reason.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, and that was one of the board's reasonings, you're correct, and because it was so close to the,
Right.
Election, that, we knew who was interested in the position.
Right.
We didn't feel the need to go out and say, hey, is anybody interested in this? This is a
Well,
little bit of a
I like
different
the idea of getting
situation.
something on paper so you can just see who they are.
We're trying to be
what
fair
kind of
here,
background.
and,
You can do the advertising and go forth that way.
Yeah.
You can do
So
it
if
at
we
recess
advertise
meeting.
in the Democrat, can we make that deadline for Friday?
Should be able to.
I think
Or,
so.
well, Friday would be best.
stuff off on Wednesday.
Okay,
It's been in the paper.
and then, next week's River Reporter would be Thursday, the 20th. Which would bring us to,
You could ask her.
Well, Glenn's his last day's the 25th, right?
correct,
It might be,
we could have a meeting, so, this gives them 4 days to get a resume to us.
it can't get in today, in Thursday's paper?
No,
They can't go to press tonight.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Carol,
it'd
why
have
don't we
to be
just wait till
Friday's
April
Democrat
7th?
and then-
Why don't we
Pardon?
just wait till April 7th? The next town board, or
We
whatever.
gotta recess anyway.
Yeah, we're going to recess anyhow.
Okay, or April 8th, I think.
So give them 4 days to get a resume to us.
Well, they're interested, they'll get it here.
You
That's
wanna
all.
meet on the 24th?
All right.
At what time?
It's giving you
Also-
1 day of overlap for the new person to learn the job from one. It's really not just throwing somebody in the ring.
He's got Steve there to help him out.
Yeah.
We have a deputy.
And Don, if it's Don, he'll fall right into it.
I know, but I'm saying, if you appointed somebody tonight, we'd have 2 weeks with Glenn to work together and they'll get the,
Yeah, no, that idea went down the drain. Yeah.
Well, he's technically not employed by the town until the 25th anyway. We couldn't legally have him working
but he
anyway.
could come in and find out where the
Yeah.
file cabinets are.
Yeah.
Well, you got a strong guy there now. Let's see if there's anybody else, and it's
have
gonna be
an
an easy
election?
decision. You're gonna have an election in
Don't you think
November.
it's an election,
You'll have an
We could do
election
that in
in
November.
an
November, but
emergency election?
You could have a special election that's gonna take a couple of months to set up anyway.
Right.
So you got November coming. So, and it's expensive. It'll cost you probably, it used to be about $600 because we did it in-house and whatnot. Now you gotta get the machines from the county and whatnot, so it's a little more expensive,
I
so.
mean, the man won this election by a landslide. We have to have a way of feeling that we're being served. I have nothing against anybody, but we have to do it in a responsible manner, that the person, you just don't walk into this job.
Right, well,
I mean,
that's
we
why
have
we're
people that work there already. They could take it over for the couple of months it takes before we have an election. We don't have to hire somebody right away. We have to have an election.
Bernie, we'll have an election in November.
All right, so let's just have somebody take it
We can
over.
make an appointment, you'll make your decision in November at the ballot box.
But I
We
mean,
have-
now,
We have to have leadership in place, there's
Well,
too many things
we have to
pending.
have a highway superintendent in place
what,
now.
aren't there
so
guys that work there that can step in?
That's kinda hard.
It's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
Bernie, the board
Bernie.
is trying to do exactly what you're saying, is to have somebody work now until the election in November.
That's right, you make your
We are
choice then.
doing exactly what you're saying.
Well, he means the highway employee, the current highway employee.
No,
No, he
no,
didn't
there's too many
necessarily,
things, that
yeah.
there's management and everything else that has to be done.
So
Can't
let's
sit there and
meet-
be on hold.
What time would everybody like to meet? During the day or in the evening?
Doesn't
During
matter
the
the
day.
day.
Doesn't make a difference to me.
During the day is better.
Oh, thank you.
Like first thing,
I
10
can't
o'clock in
meet
the morning.
until after 2:30 on So I
On the
could meet as
24th?
early as 3 o'clock, that's it.
Okay, I can't do that, so we're down to evening.
And so Glenn is on.
5:30?
Glenn is still on
5:30.
until what, the
All right.
24th of March?
25th.
5:30?
5:30, good?
Yep.
Good to me.
Are we meeting upstairs or down here?
Gotta be down here.
What's in here? I don't know what's in here. Do we know?
What's your date?
24th.
Sure.
Monday, the 21st, 5:30?
Yeah, I'm just trying to, let me see, the 24th is the 4th Monday. You're not the 4th Monday, and Kevin's
Kevin's the first.
the first, okay, we should be good, unless there's something else in here.
Fourth is always zoning review.
All right, if there's something else in here, we can just move it upstairs.
That's all.
We can go in the town office, I mean, I don't think we're gonna have a lot of people.
And then, and then
So-
Nicole's gonna take care of the advertising?
Yeah, just advertise that, authorize town clerk to advertise the position of highway superintendent,
To fill the
who would-
term.
to fill the term until the November 2014 general election. This person would be responsible to, fulfill all the duties required of a town highway superintendent according to New York State municipal law.
That's it.
And we're probably glad we have all that on tape right now, so that you can refer to it. Okay, put that in the form of a motion, can I have
I
a
will.
second? Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, two other things that I have that I wanted to add, Pig Mountain, we got a letter from, Matt. And, if I can find it.
I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's see, the event, Pig Mountain will be the 4th annual on Main Street on Saturday, August 23rd. This year's charitable partner is Center for Discovery. The event itself will be from 5 p.m. to approximately 9 p.m., 1 hour later than last year. They need some additional time necessary for setup and post-event cleanup. Unlike last year, this event will, the event this year will be all you can eat for the price of admission. In order to make this possible, we need to limit the admission to the street to people buying a ticket. Exceptions will be, of course, be made. I have spoken to the merchants on the street, except for by Delane, who he will contact, and they have agreed to follow the street to be closed. They'll obtain a $2 million liability insurance policy, naming the town of Tusten as additional insured. They'll also cooperate with the Tusten Ambulance Service, the Sheriff's Department, the New York State Police, who will all be notified. They're asking for volunteers from the ambulance and fire departments with CPR training to attend in exchange for free admission, so that they have more people on the ground.
You're gonna do
That in the event somebody chokes or has an event, that we have more people around, and I think it's a great idea. Accordingly, they're asking that Main Street be closed to vehicular traffic from 2 p.m. until 11. On August 23rd, the street will remain open to the general public until 5 p.m., at which point only attendees of the event will be admitted. Do you have any questions for Matt?
No, I don't.
Anybody else?
No, thanks, Matt, for having it in Narrowsburg again.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate it.
It was good last year. And what I've given you there is basically I need to know that that's in place in order to go to the printer, so to speak. And anything, I'm always working on, I heard some interest, I was thinking about maybe moving it up to the parking lot, not the event, but get the chefs off the street. There were a lot of people last year.
Right, yeah.
So I'd like to try to just work on that, but let's do it again.
Good luck. Absolutely.
And then, any discussion on Chuck Petersheim's letter?
Yeah, let's just talk about it a little bit. You know, we haven't had an issue with this 15% slope for how many years? I mean, I built my driveway, nobody even said a word to me. Then you had a bunch of other people in the town come in and build driveways that are on somewhat of a slope, so now we're at the 15%, and then who determines 15%? And then if it's just beyond 15%, do we go to 20 or 25? You know, where is that at? How are we handling that? So there's a bunch of questions, I guess.
Isn't that all in the zoning law?
It is.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is,
so-
and it has been.
But it's never been enforced is the problem, and then all of a sudden now it's an issue.
Well,
You know what I
that's
mean? It's never
dependent
been
on
enforced.
employees, yeah, exactly. I mean, we can't control now what's happened in the past by a previous
Well,
code
Gary-
enforcement officer.
Gary's been in for, how long you been in for, Gary?
Years or so.
2 years? Have you ever enforced this before in any other
Absolutely.
county? And have they gone before the planning board?
Yes, they have.
And then how do you handle that when that happens?
They gave us a drawing that got it within limits.
And of the 15%, or
Yeah.
can you go steeper?
No, they got it into 15%.
Well, you can't go 15% with it, you know, you can do the switchbacks and whatnot, as long as you have the radius and
I
the
mean,
turn radius.
well,
and
we're into
everything.
17 or something like that, fine, but I mean, we're not gonna let you go to 24%.
But my point is, if it's 15% or less, you don't have to go to the zoning board, you're within
No.
the zoning.
Right,
Right.
So if it's 15%, they don't even have to do
They
that
don't,
with
if
you.
it's under 15 and under, there's nothing. It just moves forward.
And what's the maximum?
Well, 15% is the maximum. It comes to us, and then we would have to review it with our engineer to see if it was safe for emergency vehicles.
Okay, so you can't
That's
go beyond 15%.
that's the big criteria, is the emergency vehicles.
right, because what happens is if we have a situation, we say, oh, sure, yeah, go ahead and do it, or we just ignore it, which apparently has happened in the past and that we can't do anything now about, but, somebody's house burns down because the fire truck couldn't get up that grade, up that, though that might be fine for the builder or for the person who's buying the house, though they might not care. But for the person they sell that house to 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, and their house burns down, and the insurance company doesn't pay out because, hey, we just went back and looked up the building permit, you shouldn't have built it. So then that liability falls back to the town.
But
So,
shouldn't we-
and, just one other point, quick. I spoke with Ed, he looked up a whole bunch of, different towns and whatnot in the state, and that seems to be the
state
mean.
code is 15%.
Yeah.
The county code is 15%, and almost every town in,
Without the planning board approval.
Yeah.
The river
Correct.
management plan is 15%.
Right, I wanna say something, we've never changed the zoning on that 15%, okay? For the last 20 years, it's always been 15%. But what I wanna make clear is that if somebody chooses, okay, after the switchbacks, okay, to put a house up on, a ridge for the beautiful view, and now somebody says, well, you can't get an emergency vehicle up there or a fire truck up there, that's a different story, because the point is, if a bank can give you a mortgage on that house, and if the house can be insured for fire or for whatever it is, I mean, is it the town's responsibility to have a fire truck or an emergency vehicle go up there? Because in this town right now, there's plenty of houses, okay, that you would question whether an emergency vehicle can even get up a hill like that, whether they were built 2 years ago or whether they were built 20, even if they had switchbacks. I mean, that's, you know, if somebody basically wants that view and they bought the land and they can get a mortgage and they can get the insurance on it to cover their house in the event that there is fire there, that's their risk.
Let me just interject one thing. They usually ask for a C of O.
Yes, they do.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
And that C of O is basically given in the confines of your zoning law.
Right.
And if it goes outside of that, then just,
But my question is
it
this.
puts the town at
But
risk if
really,
you
it's
don't
not
follow zoning.
that 15%, now just because I was on the zoning board for quite a few years, and Tony, you were with me, of
Right.
course. The planning board, if you're gonna go beyond that 15%, doesn't it have to go to the ZBA because you're outside the zoning?
If it basically goes outside of the 15, no, because then that applicant would ask for a variance, and the
That's what I'm saying to you.
the ZBA would be hard put to grant a variance because it has to be hardship,
Right.
okay?
You can't
So
create
they
your
would,
own
they would say,
hardship.
they would say, you're gonna have to do something with the land that it doesn't exceed 15%.
Okay, now you're on my wavelength. So then that really can never go to the planning board. That has to go to that would have to go to the zoning board if it's over 15%. The planning board can't grant more than 15%.
Not the way it's written right now, I don't believe, right, Ed?
The code says it goes to the planning
Right, it goes to the planning board.
Code says it goes to planning board. Okay, so that's, yeah.
And that's one of those universal.
I'm
Again,
just wanna
yeah.
follow this now, because, you know, we need to be
And
real
you
clear
asked
about this.
who determines it, it's, as far as I understand, it's a percentage, it equals the height change over the length.
Right,
So-
it's a percentage, yes,
Yeah,
1 to 5.
so
1 to
that's-
5 is 20%.
Yeah,
1 to 6
so that's
or
how it's
7.
determined, I mean, it's, you know. Sure.
According to this county, you cannot put a driveway in to a county road that exceeds 15%.
You know, the problem is, that there's so many of them that have been done, and now all of a sudden we're gonna start enforcing
I
it.
talked to the current county engineer, and she told me that they will not accept a driveway permit that's over 15% now.
Chuck?
They're not engineering driveways, Ed, they're engineering where it comes off the road. I mean, the highway, the county highway is not asking you to present a proposed and then as-built driveway diagram, which is where we're going here, that the code enforcement and the planning board and the town board is asking us more or less to map out where the driveway's coming in off the road, and that used to be the end of it. Right size your culvert, come in on a negative grade, and they're done. Now we're getting into a situation where they wanna know from the road to the house on 2-foot contours or 20-foot contours, whatever you wanna do, the grade of the driveway, which is a brand-new idea of entering private property to get grades. And it's expensive, and 15% is not steep. I mean, that's really my bottom line is, when you say steep slopes and then say 15%, they're not the same thing. 15% is not steep by any stretch of imagination. If you can get 125 large construction trucks to a job site, a fire vehicle can get up there without any problem whatsoever. Maybe not in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. when they've never been on the driveway before and they don't have a map, maybe not. But anybody who's been up and down any driveway that a house can be built on is fire truck accessible. Whether 15% becomes the rule, and no one's been, why we're here and why the letter was wrote, because I went to get a building permit and I invited Gary out because it was steep and I wanted to get his input. And we started getting into this 15%. Now, probably at least 30%, maybe 40% of my homes that we've built in Tusten, whose homeowners now pay taxes, who shop on Main Street, and who attend Pig Mountain, would not have their homes if 15% was enforced, because it's not a steep slope. When I talked to the engineer, he said, we're not allowing anything over 15%, period. That means 50% of the homes I've done in Tusten would not be existing, and probably 50% of the driveways of people in this room would not exist. If that was, it's in the zoning, there's no doubt about it. It doesn't say driveway, it actually says steep slopes. If you're building on a slope, if you're building on a piece of property that is more than 15% anywhere, it doesn't say if you're disturbing the driveway, the well, the septic, the house, the view, if that's more than 15%, you can't do it. That's what the zoning says. That has never been.
Excuse me, it doesn't say you can't do it, it says you have to go to the planning board. You can't do it.
But you're talking, then you're in almost a subdivision process. I can do it, but can Star do it? Does she have $10,000 in engineers and surveyors and then are you gonna measure it at the end? You know, do you want the engineer to then come back and say, well, he did take the 17% slope and make it 14%?
Chuck, I don't know why it's coming to this, why you're bringing this
Should
to
come right
this
to Ed and
board.
then go
It
from there.
really has to go to the planning board. Is-
And actually, that was gonna be my next point. I wanted to give you a little bit of an opportunity to state your case. We've got your letters. The board's fully aware of what your contention is with it.
I fixed my problems, but now the precedent has been set. I've foiled
Right, absolutely,
every
sure,
building permit
yeah.
for the last 2 years and all the planning board minutes for the last 2 years, and we're not gonna find, and I can show you then the houses that have been built on grades bigger than 15%, and we are not gonna find them being given to the planning board. So if you wanna get sued, it's not about the house burning down on private property, it's about uneven enforcement of zoning.
So is that just your notification?
It's not really for me, Carol. We could ask Gary. We fixed our problem. We came at it flexibly. We got engineers. We got surveyors. I spent $6,000. We know the grade of every contour possible. Gary worked with us. We relocated the house. It's fine. It's done. However, the sale of the property depended on me being able to perform those functions.
Otherwise, that person who probably now lives in Florida and they're probably retired would not be selling that piece to someone who didn't have those tools in their box. And it becomes more or less unbuildable. So you're taking property and saying you can't build on this unless you're going to spend $40,000 on a driveway and engineering, which is probably the cost of most pieces of land in Tusten.
Another thing you have to be mindful of is that in wintertime, as we just found out with the highway and superintendent stuff, if you build a road, even at 15%, if that road's not properly maintained, you can't make people properly maintain the road. Hell, if they're in Florida and they come up for the weekend, So there's quite a few times during the year that I don't care how you build the driveway, you're not gonna be able to get an emergency vehicle into that piece of property, irregardless, because the road isn't maintained, because that's the property owner's, that's his prerogative or her prerogative. So really, it's not the town that needs to be worried about getting sued if they can't get emergency vehicles in there or something. It's, it's how much of a hardship are we now gonna be putting on people? Because if you look around us, we are in a bowl. There is nothing but mountains around us. And so if somebody wanted to develop the hillside, it's gonna preclude a lot of people from building reasonably. And, I just don't understand why all of a sudden these issues are coming up now that, when I see for many, many years, including my own driveway, it was never even talked about.
And Carol, Gary's done the right thing and Ed's doing the right thing. So that's why I'm coming to the board, because it's sort of a macro policy thing that's always been on the books, but it's never been enforced, and it's actually gonna create issues.
Because we have, like I had spoken to you on the phone, we've had 5 different code enforcement officers over the period of like 12 years. Now, whether one code enforcement officer happens to know or enforces the code and the other one does, that's their job.
But it's true for Tusten, Highland, Barryville, Lumberland, Callicoon, everyone has it on their books.
Yes.
And I guess it's a template, generic wording, everybody has it on the books and everybody ignores it because.
It's in the river management plan, and all these towns have agreed to the river management plan, and it's there because of runoff and erosion, basically.
First line of
And
defense.
you might add to
Like I
that.
said, first line of defense is the code
That's
enforcement
right.
officer who knows the law and who enforces the code. That's it. Now, whether they do or not, and as I just said, we've gone through 5 or 6 code enforcement officers in the last 10 to 12 years.
But what you've just done is discourage anyone from in this room buying a piece of property that 2 months ago was a viable piece of property.
You just said you worked it out.
I did on that specific piece of property.
Absolutely, I had this conversation with Gary and Ed, I understand, I totally get where you're coming from. But as far as this issue is concerned, it's not an issue right now because this is our zoning and we have legal steps in place to, if you're not happy with what the code enforcement officer says, then you go to the planning board, and that's where it's decided. Far be it from me right now as a town board to second guess our planning board, that's not our function. And, so, I'm gonna close this discussion. Let's see. Okay, consent agenda.
Take Time Warner out.
Take Time Warner out.
Absolutely.
We removed number 25.
We're gonna be going back to renegotiate that deal.
So number's
Wait,
24.
Matt has one last.
And Matt?
Hey, Bruce.
Normally,
You
when I
agreed on
make
something?
a proposal to close the street, you guys have a vote on it.
It's on here.
Did that happen? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were wrapping it up, sorry.
So numbers 24 and 26 through 27. Oh, 24, 26, and 27. Can I have a motion?
So I'll make a motion.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Board comment?
None.
I think we're all pretty much.
Talked
talked
out.
Okay. Public comment? Any comments?
I'd just like to say very quickly, I'm destroyed that Glenn has resigned. I didn't know that until I came in here tonight. And I hope you do go through and find somebody. You'll never find someone as good, but I hope you get somebody as talented.
I'd like to have the board send a letter to Glenn of appreciation and thank him for his service.
Anybody else?
I have 3 items. One is the underpass. I just want to know if these are dead items or not. The underpass, the lights on the bridge. What happened to the bulbs?
The lights on the bridge, no, they've not been fixed. We're trying to figure out how to get in the electrical box. Nobody has the key. We don't have the key, NICEAG doesn't have the key, PennDOT doesn't have the key. So basically what I've been told is it's probably a number 2 key, so if anybody out there knows anybody that has a
Dennis
number 2
Falk.
key,
Dennis Falk.
I have no clue.
Dennis
What
Falk will get right in
about
there.
a pair of cutters? We gotta get the lights on.
Yes, we do. I
Did
know.
we bought the bulbs, right?
Damn lock and put another
You still have the bulbs?
Oh, it
Okay.
is that easy. Give me a ball peen
Just the
hammer,
bulb
that sucker
cover.
will be gone in 5 seconds.
Let's get
Dominic
it done,
can
let's
cut
get
it.
something done here for a change.
Oh, I agree. We've been working on this.
All right,
Joe
how
from
about
the-
this one? The zoning rewrite committee, what happened to that?
I have to call, I've called Bill Palmer, he got back to me, I have to call him, he wants to speak with me before we set another meeting.
How long is long?
Well, let's not hire
It's
him
long.
again.
You paid for them already,
I know that.
$6,000.
Yes, that's on my list of things to do.
But
next
why is
tomorrow,
it taking
call
so
me back.
long?
Bernie, people don't always call you back.
Well, they
Especially when they've
should
gotten-
put some
Bernie-
pressure on them.
Bernie, when they've
Build a
gotten
fire
paid-
under them.
Yeah, when
Okay.
they've gotten paid, they don't
Let's get
answer.
some of this stuff off the paper here.
Bernie, why don't you
Thank you
volunteer
very
for some of
much.
these
Anybody
committees?
I have a comment on Big Mountain. Last year was the parking issue, and nobody used the parking lots. There's no-
Nobody used the parking lots?
The one down on, by the boat landing and stuff where they were directing them.
Oh, Matt?
Matt, I'm sorry. Pay attention.
Bernie has a question about the parking,
Sure.
about, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Yeah, last year there was an issue that nobody was using the parking lot in the shuttle bus.
A shuttle bus?
No, that was for the Riverfest.
Riverfest.
yes.
They didn't get it, they didn't get the shuttle bus for the Big Mountain.
Same type of
Same type of thing?
Riverfest or Riverfest, Big Mountain, it's all the same. Where are you gonna park?
Well,
Parking's
that was
always
the
an issue.
first, that was the first time
Riverfest
that they
is
did
an
it.
issue.
The mistake that happened with that, you didn't have somebody standing in here in the road directing the people down to the parking lot.
Did somebody?
They just put a
do that
sign
once?
on
I
s-
would love to do that. I mean, it's a fantasy of mine. I had approached Rick about it.
Riverfest, I guess, talk to Elaine, because I think they tried to do that, they had a shuttle bus and had them going down here to the field.
What I actually did last year was, I mean, these are all, listen, I'm aware of, I have many, I want there to be emergency personnel on the street. There were an extra 1,500 people showed up last year that did not buy tickets in advance, and it got, you know, so I'm gonna hire a much bigger crew this year, more volunteers. I wanna have CPR trained personnel on the street. And it has always been a fantasy of mine to utilize some kind of a shuttle system into the ball field or a fireman's field. And I had spoken to Rick about it, and I offered it to the DVAA, because I personally would like just, you know, if you charged $5 a car and 1,000 people showed up, it would be a great way for somebody to raise some money.
Right.
I have so much to deal with that, you know, I don't draw enough lines and blah, blah, blah.
That would be an awesome fundraiser for the ambulance.
It would be, that would be ideal. I would, anyone who ever wanted that would be fantastic. And I don't want a penny, you know, I mean, that would be beautiful.
Carol, I believe that when they had the celebration of the fire departments, all of Sullivan County's fire trucks came here. They used all the parking down by DEC, down by Landers. They had an operation going on, you know,
Yeah.
with people in the middle of the road,
So maybe talk to
directing
Art and Greg,
traffic.
too.
So it could be done. It was done.
I personally think it would be it could be potentially lucrative.
Absolutely.
Because, and we do a website, we advertise for free. Anybody's doing anything for that weekend, we make a weekend of it, we advertise every place to stay.
Right.
Anybody's having an event, and I would love to say valet parking, $5.
Although it's in August.
Anyone who wanted to do it, please take the initiative or talk to me, I'll cooperate with you. Huh?
Yeah,
I had spoken to Rick, he said, do whatever you want. He said, go ahead. I said, could I use the field for parking? He said, go ahead.
I think if he charges a couple bucks a person, you know, I'm gonna speak to Rick about it.
Please do, because. the
ask
only
him to
thing that
volunteer
concerned me
one of
about
his
him-
vans to run back and forth and donate the money to, except for the driver, to
just charge a
the
couple bucks a
to
person
the
and do whatever he
ambulance
wants with the
department. That would be an awesome fundraiser.
I'll speak to him.
When I
Yeah.
spoke to him once, I think I suggested it the first year, he said, we're so busy, because his business is operating.
Yeah, he's busy.
But
Yeah.
one bus,
That was my concern.
one bus, you can make, that'd be
Matt,
great.
do you think out of the money you collect, you could possibly buy the town a zapper?
A zapper? Well, let me, the reason I'm doing it this
No, I'm
year
talking
is-
about for heart attacks down here.
Oh, you want it?
Oh, a deep rib.
Well, let me tell you what the real reason I'm doing what I'm doing this year is. I only sold, I don't know how, I've heard various estimates as to how many people were on the street last year. I say 1,500. Ron, who is a police officer, says 2,500. I only sold 900 tickets. I didn't make any money. What everybody does is, you get 10 tickets, they split it 2-3 ways. So there were, for every person who bought a ticket, there were 3 people on the street. By limiting it to, you have to buy a ticket to get in, I'm hoping to, I wouldn't mind if you dropped 400 or 500 people didn't show up, or if, you know, and we'll have some more money, and then we can start to see. I was able, we donate our money, $2,500 was what was left over last year. I don't.
It's an awesome event, I love it.
Yeah.
Why do more than one event?
We could build a dog kennel.
How like a December, or January, February event? We need a January, February
Get the
event.
dog kennel off these notes.
I have an idea for an event. Well, I don't mean to keep, people have been here for a long time. I think I talked about it with Ed, the Tusten 500 lawnmower race. And you have each of the, like all the local automotive shops, anybody who has a business here we could set it up with just hay bales, it would cost nothing. Insurance would be an issue, I'm concerned about insurance. And they could, you know, it's like advertising. Who's got the hottest, who can soup up the best lawnmower? You could have Malalis, you could have anybody. And you could, you know, think of the concession. You could do, same thing, beer. And you could have, I always like to, I don't mean to take up your time, but I like to involve it should involve local businesses, right? So it's an opportunity for the pizza parlor to sell pizza. And for the Chinese restaurants, if they ever wanted to have, you know, you could have people on Main Street had like really good days last year. I would love that. It's a lot. I'm already working on this thing now, and what am I, 5-6 months out? So.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
will be
Is that why I
to
24th.
decide the 24th, March 24th at 5:30 p.m.
Right. And I hope to see everybody at the St. Patty's Day
I'll make
Parade
that motion,
this Sunday.
second.
When is it?
This Sunday.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, there's a pancake breakfast before.
Oh, yeah.